You can now hear Movie Heaven, Movie Hell on Stitcher. Stitcher is radio on demand. Listen anytime, anywhere. Stitcher is an award-winning free app that lets you listen to all your favourite shows, plus discover from 20,000 news, entertainment and sports shows. You can also create your own custom playlists. Stitcher is available on iOS, Android, Nook, iPad and in over 4 million car dashboards. It's on demand and it's on the go. No downloading, no syncing, no wasted memory. You can stream your favourite podcasts from Stitcher. Don't have Stitcher? Download it free today at Stitcher.com or in the App Store. And please leave us a review and rating on Stitcher. Thank you. Welcome to Movie Heaven, Movie Hell with me, Simon Aitken, and
I'm Keith Eyles, and we are both independent filmmakers who enjoy watching and discussing movies. And for this FrightFest special, we are joined by friends and fellow filmmakers Clive, Ashenden and Mike Tack, and
Hello.
first-time FrightFester Paul Cross. So welcome to the podcast, guys.
Hiya,
Hello.
right?
Hello. That was exciting, wasn't it? Full of
You can tell.
enthusiasm.
Anyone would think we've been up watching movies for like 5 days in a row, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
so are you guys all recovered?
Yeah, I've got tomorrow off. It's Thursday, by the way, so I've got tomorrow off, and yeah, I wasn't too bad. It's just I had so many games to play when I got home. I just had to go to bed with all these things wrapped in cellophane, which is really annoying. But
it's hard to believe it was a week ago
Yeah.
that it started.
blimey,
There
yeah.
you go. But there you have it. So yes, we're here today to talk about FrightFest 2017. And just to give you a bit better introduction, Paul, this for you've obviously helped us on some of our movies that we've made and as crew, and this was your first experience of FrightFest. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. That Mike keeps pestering me to come along, and to be honest, the idea of spending a whole day watching 4 or 5 films seems like quite a long and drawn out way to spend a day. So I was a bit nervous of going, but I'm quite glad that I took the invitation and really, really enjoyed it.
There you go. You see. So will you be going other years?
Yeah. I'm definitely planning on coming back next year and get more people to come along as well, because it's a really good experience. Yeah. Surprised I made it.
Yes, absolutely. And I guess we should give honourable mentions to some of our friends and regular FrightFesters who were there. Tim Richards, Stuart Wright, Jason Bourne, Graham Curry, and also Claire and Anthony Bueno were there. And I'm sure that there were a lot more that I probably didn't know. But,
Andy Thomas. Do with the glasses from Telford.
That's right.
Who works in a glassless room. So that says a lot about his personality. And there's also I can't remember his name now. He just thanked me for not taking the piss out of him all weekend when we went, so he was quite pleased about that. Yeah,
well, that's very unusual for there to be someone that you don't take the piss out of.
Yeah, I know.
There you have it.
I was gentle on him the weekend, so
yeah. I have to say as well, Adam Green kind of stole my thunder slightly, because it was always my intention to, dedicate this episode to George Romero. I wore, the little button badge of him all weekend because of obviously the contribution he's made to the genre. But then, bizarrely, we also lose Toby Hooper the day after the prequel to Texas Chainsaw, the Leatherface film, showed. So it was kind of a a sad weekend from that point of view. That the icons, you know, those masters of horror that we all grew up loving, are sadly leaving us at an alarming rate these days. So, yeah.
So, Keith, why don't you explain to the listeners why Adam Green stole your thunder in some sense?
Oh no! The only reason I mean that is he obviously did a very nice, a very moving dedication while we were at FrightFest. You know, to George Romero, and of course, you know, the following day, you know, we lost Toby Hooper. So, but no. I only mean stole my thunder in so much as I was going to dedicate the episode to George Romero before we even did FrightFest. You know, that's what I mean. But hey ho, you know, it's important that these guys are remembered. Wes Craven also got honourable mention in there as well, which I think was important. So yes, you know, good to have them remembered. And I thought Adam Green spoke really well about it all, actually. So,
he's a nice guy, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I like him. Yeah.
I mean, this year marked a couple of returns. I mean, one, FrightFest returning to the Empire, which I must admit I didn't think we'd ever see again.
Yeah, the screen that we were in, the Horror Channel screen, was fucking huge. It's like, and I reckon there's probably about nearly 1,000 seats in that auditorium, which was not far. It was about 200 off what the other capacity used to be when we went there years ago.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's the first time in 5 years that it's, because this is the 18th anniversary, I believe, and you guys have been. I mean, I've been going. It's my 5th year. But you guys have been going a lot longer than that. You're real veterans of FrightFest. So I
think Clive's
the
the old hand in there. Didn't we discuss this before? Clive's the one that's been to more than any of us. Only Clive.
I think that's my 16th.
No, well done, Clive.
So yeah,
there you go.
You started when you were 5, didn't you?
Drink.
something like that. Yeah.
I mean, it was also the return of all of us sitting in the same screen watching the same film at the same time instead of being split off into 3.
Yeah.
Yes.
That sucks,
I mean,
doesn't it?
You know, the atmosphere, you know, obviously, you know, there were the sad moments about the Toby news, etc. But the atmosphere for the actual films themselves was incredible. I have to say, I thought that was one of the pluses this year was the crowd was really good to watch some of these films with. You know, it was a hoot. You know.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's it. I mean, that was always the one thing that always brought me back to the festival was, you know, the audience. So when we were split off into 3 screens, it was never quite the same. I mean, the fact that you couldn't come out of the film afterwards and talk to people about it because some people hadn't seen it yet or had seen it like 2 films ago. So that's great where you can go up to anybody and say, well, what did you think of that film? And most people have seen it.
Yeah, I mean, there were 3 Discovery screens as well, which I think. Clive, you were probably the most experimental with that stuff out of all of us, I guess. Yeah.
I guess so. Yeah. I think let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I saw 6 Discovery screen films.
I heard that Clive is quite an experimental type of person. So
I saw 5 actually. So yeah.
Did you?
Okay. Oh, actually, no, 6. I saw 6, though I regretted 2 of them.
Tim Richards recommended one for you, didn't he?
Yeah. No, I missed a couple of really good films in the main screen by going to Discovery screen ones. But hey ho, that's part of the punt of it. I mean, that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes, you know.
Yeah. I mean, it also marks the return of Adam Green and Joe Lynch, who were like 2 of the festival favourites, and as well as showing that both their feature films, Alistair Crowley and Mayhem. Victor Crowley. Sorry. Oh, let me try that again.
We're going to jump down on you, Simon. You're making mistakes like that.
So with their films, Victor Crowley and Mayhem. But they also brought back The Road to FrightFest. So that was the first thing we saw. So what do you guys think of it?
That was very amusing. Yeah, the Douche Brothers. Very amusing.
I think it's available online now, isn't it?
Yes, it went up on YouTube that same night.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool that they go to all that effort. Really, I mean, you get guests turn up, and they sort of some of them are I mean, okay, let's compare this to an American festival. Where they sit behind the desk and they charge you money to sign stuff, and it's all very commercial and all a little bit seedy. Whereas in the UK, there's none of that. So a lot of particularly the American guests, they can hang around and they make themselves available. And Barbara Crampton was there, good old Barb's, getting them out for the lads, and she was walking around looking, very good for her age.
Jennifer Tilly as well.
Yeah, she's quite a big lady now, isn't she? Always was a big lady, but not in the same areas. But she's she was there for one of the premieres of a new Chucky film. But I don't really want to talk about the films too much. But anyway, so you had Kane Hodder, who always drinks beer by the bar. And you can probably grab a picture with them or a selfie if you want. If you want to, at least they don't charge you 25 quid for the privilege.
Yeah, I mean, if the conventions over here, they charge, but I don't think I've experienced a film festival over here where you had to pay.
No, because they've already been paid or they're promoting their film.
Yeah,
I think they think of Europe as it's a different type of place, and I think actually I talked to Adam Green for a little while out the front, and he seemed very relaxed. And I went to Denver a couple of years ago. Keith will say this because he was there, because we were shooting a documentary there, and they were just stuck behind their chairs, and then they fucked off at a certain time. You didn't see them for the rest of the festival. They sort of had almost like working hours where they would turn up, and then it's almost like they didn't want to be there.
But was Denver just a film festival, or was it a convention as well? Because I attended a film festival over in Orlando, and there was a convention going on. The festival was just part of that convention.
No, just a film fest.
Oh, okay.
It was literally like their version of FrightFest. And but then they had them on tables. Where you could go and they smile and pretend that they like you and take a picture with you, and they take $20 or $25. And the way it works, that money I found out goes to the festival. Yeah. And then they've already prepaid the celebrities a certain amount of money to turn up. They get an appearance fee.
Yeah.
It was still a very enjoyable festival, though.
Oh no, the festival's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so in terms of format for this then, Clive made a really good suggestion that we sort of just go through it day by day, and then at the end we can kind of choose what we think our overall movie heaven and our overall movie hell was. So so it all started on the Thursday night with Cult of Chucky, which I have to say I had a good time with. Don't know about you guys. I thought it was all right.
Yeah.
I fell asleep halfway through.
Okay.
Oh, well, I can't talk about it then.
Right.
Well, I was going to say, it was probably one of the strongest openers we've had in a while. Usually the opening film was usually not that great. Sometimes they got awful. But it was. I thought Cult of Chucky was it was an enjoyable film. I liked what they did with it. I thought they added some interesting stuff to it. I mean, I liked the dream sequences in it, and I'm I'm looking forward to see what they do with it next.
Yeah, I thought it was a bit boring. The location that they shot it in was a bit bland. I personally thought that the previous one, I can't remember what it's called.
Curse of Chucky.
Yeah, we saw that at FrightFest. For me, that was a bit more of a scary element to it. I didn't think the one we saw was that scary at all. It was more comical, which has always been a factor. And, you know, I'm sure when you guys will go into the plot, I thought it was a little bit weird on the plot as well.
Yeah, I think tonally it did sort of take a step back towards the sort of Bride and Seed type movies, as opposed to Cursed had gone a bit darker, a bit more like the first 2 or 3 movies. But
that's probably why I liked it more.
Yeah, because that I remember I saw that one. That was my first year actually there, so it must have been 5 years ago that they did that one. What did you think, Clive?
I thought it was a solid opening film. I enjoyed it, but I didn't think it was as good as the previous entry, I have to say. I think it's a nice enough setup, having the Fiona Dourif character sort of confined to a mental asylum and sort of having been convinced by her doctor that she is actually responsible for all of Chucky's crimes, that she's made him up in her head, and then having the real Chucky come in. It's a nice setup. I mean, the look you were talking about, Mike, where you thought it was quite bland, I thought it was kind of creepy. I like the sort of look of it, but it felt like a weird mismatch with a lot of the kind of more comedic elements, because it did get sort of broader as it went through. So I thought the previous one did better in terms of marrying this. It's always had that kind of Chucky wisecracking as he offs people, sort of very black humour to it. But the last one brought it back to sort of the first few films where they were a bit scarier. So I thought it was fine, but not as good as the previous one for me.
Yeah, I just thought the location, just from an aesthetic cinematography sort of point of view, just looked a bit bland and a bit uninteresting, really. It's like these weird sort of high-tech sort of corridors all the time.
Well, it was like their sort of Halloween 2, set in the hospital.
Yeah, sort of, yeah.
But, I mean, and there were a couple of excellent wisecracks in it, because you had that sort of slimy, doctor psychologist guy who wasn't very nice at all. And Chucky says, what is it? I'm not sure if I should kill him or be taking notes.
That was really funny.
A great line.
There were some good laughs, yeah.
But, and Paul, sorry, I don't want to leave you out. I know you weren't here this particular day, but have you watched, or are you a fan of the Chucky franchise, the Child's Play films at all?
Definitely not.
Okay.
Absolutely detest them. I had a friend of mine that thought they were absolutely brilliant, and I'd have to sit through them with them, and I just thought it was rubbish. And I couldn't understand why someone didn't just run up and kick that stupid doll in the face and just look down the road like in a Super Bowl and put it over the post. Sorry, that's how I feel. I just think they're awful films.
Fair enough. I must admit, I hadn't actually discovered them until it was that FrightFest where they showed Curse of Chucky. I ended up doing a sort of Chucky marathon to get up to speed, but I mean, they're a bit silly and whatever, but I think they're okay. They're quite fun.
I like the first one a lot because Tom Holland directed it.
Yeah,
he did FrightFest. I thought he did a great job on that.
No, don't you mean Fright Night, Mike?
Fright Night, yeah.
What did I say? FrightFest?
You said FrightFest. Yeah. That would have been quite interesting. Welcome to FrightFest.
Aren't we?
It's all right.
It's all right. You can so tell we're all
down
tired.
on me when I make a mistake as well. It's all fair. It's all good, as Tim Richards would say.
I think there's only a couple of good horror films that I've seen with sort of puppets or whatever you want to call them, because I thought Annabelle was rubbish, but there was that one with what's his name, where he has the talking doll that sends him mental.
Dead of Night.
Magic.
Which
Magic.
I
Magic,
thought,
yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
Magic with Anthony Hopkins. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a Richard Attenborough film, I believe.
that's a fantastic film.
Yeah, that's an amazing film.
Have you not
No, I
seen
agree.
Trilogy of Terror with Karen Black? That's got one of the best doll type things. This little evil, sharp-teethed, sort of African type carved doll, and this chain falls off of him, and he goes around the house with a carving knife in his hand. It's excellent. And you guys seen that? Trilogy of Terror? It was a TV movie. Karen Black played 3 different personas in 3 different parts. My wife still won't watch that today. It scares the crap out of her.
I'll have to put that down to watch then.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. I have to say, Mike, you're my, you're the aficionado of some of those ones I haven't seen. So you and Jason Broaden, between you know so much stuff about this genre. It's unbelievable.
The old shit, yeah. It's only because we're old.
So if I'm going with horror puppies, it's got to be Gremlins, and as you mentioned, Magic.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just terrible.
Yeah, Dead of Night is good as well. That's sort of where Magic came from, about the ventriloquist who you don't know whether the puppet's alive or whether he's actually just going mental.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
Jason mentioned that one as well, actually. So yeah, that's on the list. The ever-growing list.
It's really good. Yeah.
There's a Blu-ray of that out now, Keith, so add that to your Amazon wish list.
But then again, I really like Meet the Feebles, the Peter Jackson film, so I'm just a bit odd. So
No, that's fun.
yeah.
Okay,
There you
so
go.
should we crack on then? Because
Yeah.
at this rate,
Yeah.
it's going to take us all night, isn't it? I'm not trying to
Yeah, well,
complain.
I must admit, on the other one for me that was a bit of a surprise on the Thursday, a pleasant surprise, was Death Note, which is that Netflix movie that premiered, and I actually thought that was quite fun. That was quite interesting. I went in with a very low expectation, but was pleasantly surprised by that one.
Yeah, I think the best thing about that was that we got a chance to see it on an IMAX size screen rather than on normal TV through Netflix. I think that is good because it's an opportunity you don't normally get. So I enjoyed Death Note. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it as well, and I think it worked well with that audience, with the FrightFest audience. Though, I mean, having sort of stepped away from the festival and seeing a lot of the reviews, it doesn't seem to have gone down too well with reviews.
I agree. I heard that myself today from someone that watched it. It's Paul, actually. Paul said that he didn't think it was all that, didn't you, Paul?
Yeah, it's Death Note it's on Netflix at the moment, and watched it the other day. I thought brilliant start, brilliant intention, but it just sort of lost its way a bit. But yeah, it's all right. It's entertaining.
I mean, there's the original Death Note, the actual anime on Netflix as well. So, I mean, there's always So you can watch. Yeah.
Okay.
I know. The main complaint was that in the Netflix version, all the interesting stuff in the cartoon was just a montage in the film. But I think they had to cover a lot, in a short span of time. So
isn't that because there are actually 3 movies that were made?
Well, there's 3 live action movies, but the anime was a TV series. So I think there's about 10 episodes.
So more to be explored there.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
What about you, Clive? Did you have any strong feelings on that one?
I thought it was fine. To be honest, I had low expectations because I'd heard some bad sort of pre-word of mouth. But I like Adam Wingard's stuff generally, I guess. Particularly The Guest and You're Next. So I was kind of pleasantly surprised. It did seem very obvious that there was a bit where that montage that we've mentioned, where it was like, and here's where the series went, So they had the nice setup of it, and then it was like, I have a plan, we're going to do this, and then what should have taken a long time, they sort of montaged it out, and then you got into the exciting aftermath, and actually that worked fairly well. And it sort of, you could. There's always something that bit uncomfortable when they move certain Asian sort of set films to America, you know, it sort of doesn't always work. You know, I sort of feel like things like, you can see why they kept, say, the Grudge remake, like actually set was, I think it was set in Japan, wasn't it?
It was. Then they had the original crew that made the other version as well. Apparently, they just swapped an English cast.
Whereas this one, they moved it to Seattle, and I'm not sure that totally worked all the time. But having said that, I thought there were some, you know, decent performances, and actually it was enjoyable enough for what it was.
Fair enough.
Do you think we're going to be seeing a sequel?
Mate.
Depends how much it cost them and how much it gets watched, I suppose.
Yeah,
because Netflix can track all that, can't they?
Yeah, that's true.
I thought Willem Dafoe was a good demon in that. I thought that was really.
That put me off. All I could think of was, he's the Green Goblin.
Well, it was the same performance, wasn't it?
It was. That's what I was saying. I thought Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin
performance.
They should have had someone else doing it.
I thought it was a good performance. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed his performance on that. It was good.
Yeah, if my only complaint would be there wasn't enough of William Dafoe in it.
Yeah, probably would have made it a better film.
Oh, there you go. And talking of complaints, we finished off the first evening with Psychopaths, which I have to say, for me, it was trying way too hard to be abstract, if you know what I mean. And it just didn't particularly work because of that, I thought. But I walked
out of that one, just so you know.
Feelings, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I skipped it altogether. I mean, just the synopsis in the programme was confused.
Yeah, Clive was there for it, weren't you, Clive?
I watched all of it.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy the experience?
Not especially, no. I thought the first 20 minutes I was kind of with it, and I was thinking, okay, I see this could be interesting, but it sort of settled into a pattern after a while. It sort of.
That's exactly what I thought. I watched it and I said, he's just repeating the same 5-10 minute riff every fucking time. And I thought, I'm not sitting through this shit one more second. Sorry. That's not an official review.
I don't know. I mean, it can be. I mean, it certainly shows how you feel if you leave for a film at FrightFest.
Well, if it's late night, then you could say they just wanted to get home and they're just seeing what it's like, and if it's not their thing, then they'd rather go home and get some extra sleep. And that's sort of what I did.
But I mean, after a while, I sort of decided that if I was not enjoying a film, that like in the first 5, 10, 15 minutes, then I'm not going to enjoy the film for the rest of it. So it's acceptable to sort of walk out on a film.
I think I gave it 25 minutes.
25 minutes of bloody moaning. That's all I'll say. Next to you and Tim. I'll put it this way. When you're not enjoying a film, Mike, everyone around you fucking knows it. You know what I'm saying? You and Tim. I was like, oh, for God's sake,
Okay, so give an example of how you'd know then, because we didn't make a lot of noise.
Oh, you sit there going, oh, fucking hell. Oh, this is absolute dog shit. Oh, God. And then we get Tim go, pony.
I'll give you that one. Right, so that's the first night done.
Yeah, so moving on to... Well, Friday was the day where I made a few wrong choices. Let's put it that way.
But can I just ask one question? So if that's what... Mike and Tim sound like when they're not enjoying a film. What do they sound like when they're enjoying a film?
Oh, like they're enjoying it way too much, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I did grab hold of your knee at one point, didn't I? I thought it was your knee anyway.
Let's move on to the next day, shall we?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I missed the first film. I went to see something else. So
Okay.
I didn't see Freehold.
I saw
I went to
Freehold.
see the glass coffin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw Voice from the Stone, as did you, didn't you, Keith?
That's correct. Yeah.
Well, Mike, you go first.
Well, I was just going to say, ironically enough, Freehold, which is a story about a guy who owns a house and he fucks around with a resident by like shoving his toothbrush up his arse and leaving it out and all this sort of stuff. Actually sounds like a bit of me.
Remind me never to share a room with you again, Mike.
Don't leave your toothbrush unguarded, mate, I tell you. And a lot of people said it was pretty good. They really enjoyed it. I know Andy Thomas enjoyed it. A lot of people watched it, enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But I went to see the glass coffin. Basically, the premise is a woman who's an actress is going to an award ceremony. She goes in there. She's got some bubbly. Everything looks cool. And then a mystery voice comes over the tannoy from the driver's side, and she's locked in there. And then this person decides to try and make her do certain types of things to degrade herself. And there's a big story behind it.
So the whole film's set in the back of this limo, is that right?
That's locked. And what is really cool, that I thought was cool stylistically, was that when this woman, as you know, most normal people would say, oh, if it said take your knickers off or something, well, I wouldn't complain, but the car stops. And what happens is they emphasise the fact that the car's stopping and the driver's going to get out and beat the shit out of her with a nightstick by making the interior colour of the car change to a different colour, to like red, which means like danger or something. And that was very effective, that as soon as you knew you knew some shit was going to happen, if the car suddenly changed colour internally, as well as having the noise of it stopping, which obviously is a production thing, because if it's in a set, if you like, that's a very clever way of showing that this, something's going to happen and the car's coming to a halt, and and then you get all the drama of her looking worried and all that sort of stuff. So I really enjoyed it, actually. I know that someone else didn't enjoy it, that is on my Facebook, but there again, he likes all kinds of crap. So that's sorry, Andy Lunn out there. But I thought it was good. It was basic. It was a Spanish film, I think, so subtitled in the small cinema. And I thought it was all right. I thought it was okay. It was like, I didn't feel miffed that because I don't like straying from the main screen very often, because I don't look at the programme this year, really. I didn't look at any trailers. I was going into all these films blind, pretty much. So, yeah, I'm quite happy that I changed. It's well worth checking out as well. And it's a good idea for contained. Lots of these lower budget films have a contained scenario, and to have it inside a limo is a really cool idea. So,
yeah, where was Andy Lunn this year, by the way? You just reminded me.
He did lots of Discovery films, and he just like bought the odd tickets because he went away on holiday like he does all the time, and didn't get a season pass. Apparently, he saw me in that performance, but me and Tim got out quick because at FrightFest, especially the Empire, you needed to run to the toilets in order so you're not queuing there for 10 minutes about to wet yourself, because you got like 1,000 people as soon as the film ends coming out and wanting to go, well, say not 1,000, maybe 500, half the demographic, going to the lavatory. So we thought it was rubbish because we all bailed really quickly and didn't wait for the Q&A. So.
Oh, shame on you.
So you guys, what did you see?
Right, well, Clive, what was the film you saw?
We saw Voice from the Stone, which is a sort of gothic romance come sort of ghost story starring Emilia Clarke of Game of Thrones fame, which is now available to buy on DVD, if should you be interested.
Is it worth buying?
If you like sort of subtle ghost story type chills, it's very well. It's very tastefully done. It's a very elegant looking film.
Was it gothic?
Yeah, it was.
Yes. Yeah,
it was. I mean, the setup is it's a period thing. She's sort of going in as a governess to a young boy who hasn't spoken since his mother died of an illness, and they all live in a castle, So you've got all these sort of gothic tropes, and it does actually some really nice things. And I enjoyed the film, but I have to say there is a bit where it becomes unintentionally hilarious because because it's been so tasteful, and then let's just say passions are unleashed, and it's sort of
it brings whole new meaning to the term knocking one out.
Beg your pardon?
There's some
sculpting.
There's some erotic sculpting, which sort of it's almost a bit like the bit in Ghost.
Oh, right.
Where they start doing pottery. You know, it's supposed to be this really tender, heartfelt moment, but it's sort of you're sort of suppressing titters.
Are you telling me it's a 2-foot clay phallus
over the top? Not entirely.
Like I said, it brought a whole new meaning to the term knocking one out.
Okay.
Because they were chiseling away.
Did you see it then?
Well, yeah, I saw this film as well. It is actually very well made. It's a good film. It's not. It's a slow burner though. I will put that as a word of warning. But because I was quite tired actually, and I found the first half I was struggling a little bit, but you know, it is very, very good film, very well made, and like Clive said, really tastefully done, even though we were being childish about bits of it.
Grow up, Keith.
So is it like The Innocents then, like that, or the?
It's a bit like the others, but it's not really trying to scare you, if that makes sense. So much, it's more sort of subtle creepiness. It's about sort of repressed secrets and things like that, rather than sort of like, oh my God, what's that banging at the door? You know, it's
repressed passions. Let's put it that way. Yes. But,
so it's more like that. Is it an Attenborough film, The Innocents, the black and white film with the governess that goes back with the?
That's Jack Clayton. I think that's scarier, but
this wasn't, in my opinion, this wasn't really a scary film. It was just quite dark with some of the things that happened. But it was more gothic romance than it was supernatural horror.
Okay. Simon, you didn't see anything.
Yes, I went to see Freehold. Wait, I saw Freehold. Right, well, Freehold, I must admit, when it first started, I was thinking, I'm not going to last long in this, because it was kind of like a little bit arty. It's about this guy who's an estate agent, and you just sort of see him get up and get dressed, and he's putting his breakfast together, and he's getting, it's all artfully done. It's, every shot, is well lit. It looks like something out of a commercial.
Was it like padding though, would you say?
No, not at all. Not at all. But because there was nothing there at first to tell you what the story was about. And then, but this is why it kind of worked, was then once he left the flat, suddenly you see this skeletal person appear from out of I can't remember if the first appearance of him was from under the bed or from his wardrobe, and he starts sort of going round the flat and starting to he has his own routine as well, and it just it grew from that. And so I mean the whole idea is this guy who's secretly living in the flat with this estate agent, and he's fucking with him. He's like, as you say, putting the toothbrush up his bum. He's like using the mouthwash and then spitting it back in.
You like sleep tight then.
That guy's breath must have been amazing.
At one point, the girlfriend turns up, and he had left like a a post-it note, a reminder to pick her up from the airport, and he goes and changes it, and all kinds of stuff like that. And it was just like it just sort of really, it just built up to, you're like, well, where is this going? Why is this guy doing this? You know, you think at first, well, maybe he's just secretly living there. He's just a homeless guy who got in there somehow, and he's quite happy to be, you know, secretly living in this place. But there's actual point to it. I won't ruin the what it is, because it's
cool.
quite powerful, and you know, and it was really well done. But I will say one thing that kind of let it down a little bit was at the end credits. You know, it went to black. You thought, oh, that was good. I really enjoyed that. And then it goes back, and the guy who plays the estate agent, I think he's like a DJ on Kiss. I'm not sure, but I wouldn't know. But he starts doing a monologue to camera about how, you know, this whole story isn't about being black or white or right or wrong, and you're like, why are you preaching to me? It was like really weird, and I mean,
like it didn't need it.
It did not need it at all. It was kind of hammering its point home too much, and I must admit, afterwards I didn't really give it a second thought, because I was, you know, because Freehold kind of, it did stay with me afterwards. It's one of those films where when you watch it, you go back home and you just check behind check your wardrobes and check behind the couch.
Check your toothbrush.
Check your toothbrush, definitely. You know, sterilise your toothbrush.
Yeah.
But it was Stuart who said, you know, he said, well, what did you guys think about this ending? And, you know, when he brought it up, it was like, it was not needed. But overall, I'd say it was a good film.
Fair enough.
On to the next one.
Well, the next one's where I made a massive mistake, and which I'm still kicking myself for, because my gut instinct was telling me to go see a film called Bad Match, because it was written by the person who wrote Cheap Thrills, which was was my movie heaven from that year. And it also stars Lily Simmons, who's a beautiful actress who is in one of my favourite TV shows called Banshee. And I really wanted to see that, but instead I somehow stuck with the main screen and went to see Freehold, and I must admit I thought that was dreadful.
You saw Sequence Break.
Sequence Break, sorry.
Go on, you tell him, boys, tell him.
And that was, Sequence Break. I wish I'd broken the sequence by not going to see it. Yeah.
God. Sequence Break. It's a guy who basically had access to a garage with a few old arcade machines in, and maybe a bedroom, and decided to make a feature film about this miserable fuck who didn't really act very well. Had a quite nice girlfriend, and she was quite interesting. But apart from that, he sort of gets involved in some sort of Cronenberg-esque mutating arcade video machine with the most piss poor graphics I've ever seen on any 8-bit or 16-bit game, and it was a total pile of shit that I walked out of halfway through.
Okay,
and then I asked everyone else what happened, and I was glad I walked out.
I found this one very disappointing. I'd heard what it was about, and I thought, okay, this ticks a lot of boxes, which are the kind of things that interest me. The sort of body horror, the Cronenberg, So I was hoping for something which had the kind of like ideas that you get in a Cronenberg film, that it was going to go into some almost sci-fi territory, and they director Graham Skipper, who's an actor turned director, he was in Beyond the Gates. It's like he seems at some points almost more interested in the sort of mumblecore type indie romance that's going on between the sort of arcade machine technician guy and the sort of manic pixie dream girl who comes in looking for an arcade machine. and it's sort of, and that's sort of charming, and that kind of kept me going when it's, for about the first half of the movie. But then as things start to fracture and get more experimental and arty, I just, sadly, I felt like it was more sort of throwing things at the screen. There didn't seem to be like a unifying theme or idea. And after a while, I lost patience with it.
Yeah, I agree.
Didn't really have a good story, did it?
Well, they say it was Altered States meets Videodrome, which I think is very generous. You know what I mean? It was kind of, it didn't really go, like you said. I think it's a fair point Clive made, that it did start off, and you were kind of somewhat interested and pulled into it to start with, but then when it gets into the whole, fractured reality and all that sort of stuff, and it just didn't. It just
really wasn't
work.
done very well for me either. I just thought it looked rubbish, and then I guessed subsequently what the big reveal was going to be as well. I asked a few people at the end what happened at the end, and I'm like, oh god, I went and got some food.
It was one of the more interesting chats though afterwards, but people were just asking each other, what did you think the ending meant then? Because no one really had a firm grip. And I remember sort of saying what my idea of it was, and then people going, okay, really, and it wasn't because it was like this amazing ending which you could take lots of things from. It was literally people were grasping for some kind of straw,
clutching at straws to think that there was a bloody narrative to it. Yeah. Anyway.
Did you see this, Simon?
No, I skipped it.
Did you see anything else?
You did well.
No, I didn't. I can't. I sort of had a break. I sort of went and had like some food and stuff. So I was quite happy to have missed it.
The food break movie.
Sequence break, food break. Indeed.
I wish I come and watch this film.
I wish I'd gone to see Bad Match. Damn it! But there you go. Anyway, never mind.
Before we move on to the next one, I think we should do a quick plug for a previous Movie Heaven, Movie Hell podcast, which is when we talked about the films at FrightFest Glasgow this year.
Oh, right.
Because two of the films that screened at FrightFest Glasgow, It Stains the Sands Red and Fashionista, screened on the Friday on one of the Discovery screens.
Oh, that's right.
So if you're interested in those films, then do go back and download that previous podcast.
And give us a like while you're at it.
You're really pushing your luck, Keith.
I was going to say, not listening to this, they aren't, are they? But there you go. Anyway,
right.
So next up, I have to say, I really enjoyed Radius. What did you guys think?
I had a nap through Radius, so I wasn't a big fan. I have to say, I thought it was a good idea, but they didn't seem to know quite what to do with it. I think they had.
I thought it was good.
I think they had an exciting moment when it was the sort of elevator race in the hospital, and I would have liked to have seen a bit more of that. But I don't know if they didn't have the money or they just didn't have the ideas.
I thought it was pretty damn good, actually. It was like I was like, all the films I've seen so far have been sort of average or poor, and for me, for the budget that they had, I thought that it was a good idea, and it intrigued me, held my interest, and I guess the twist at the end, but I thought it was cool. So, thumbs up for me.
Yeah. I mean, it was a good high concept idea that they made. They planned out, realizing they weren't going to have a huge budget to do this, and they made it very much about the characters. And I thought it was really effective. It's a great role for the lead who is one of the actors from the Blacklist TV show. But that was a really cool sort of everyman thrown into extraordinary circumstances type role. And yeah, well worth a watch. We don't want to do any spoilers on this one, but it's definitely worth.
I think we should just explain what the high concept was. So, I mean, because I think it has got a really nice Twilight Zone type setup where you get the guy who wakes up from a car crash with no memory of who he is, and then finds that he has this literal radius of death around him, where anyone who approaches him or any animal even dies immediately. But then he finds this one woman who not only is immune to this, but actually can cancel out his zone of death.
Yeah,
and then it sort of goes from there. I mean, for me,
well, it's a quest for the connection from there, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, so, they're trying to. It's this sort of puzzling out who they are, what their connection is, and you see slowly getting pieces of information through flashback. It's well done. I thought it was a good film. I have to say, I found I sort of see where Simon's coming from, because I found it a little bit dour. It's sort of a little bit sort of indie movie, kind of like serious, and sort of doesn't and isn't moving very quickly in the middle, and then it takes a turn at the end, which I was fine with, and it came as a surprise to me. But then it's got like a nice setup, and the payoff is good, which I think in the end elevates the film. But in the middle, it's a little bit sort of. Little bit of a drag, which is odd, because I was with it and I was still interested to see what would happen, and I liked the performances, but it was just a little bit down, if that makes sense.
I thought the landscapes that they were shooting in were quite empty, because by nature of the concept, you couldn't have this bloke too near population, otherwise everyone would have to drop down dead and everything. So I think maybe part of the narrative dictated that he had to be sort of in a deserted sort of area, I suppose. I didn't think it was that bad. I quite liked it. But
no, I mean, I'm not. I don't want to sound like I'm trashing it, because I thought it was good, but I just didn't. I didn't think it was great. So
fair enough. And Paul, you weren't. Was it this day you were with us, or the following day?
No, next day.
Next day.
No, it was Sunday actually.
Sunday.
Fair enough.
We're way off.
Well, I hope you're making note of all these, Paul. You've got to go back and watch now, you know.
Well, I went with your Death Note recommendation, and it was all right, but no.
Oh, all right.
I saw better films on the Sunday than Death Note, I think.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, next up, I have to say a pleasant surprise for me was 68 Kill. Did everybody watch that one, or did we branch off?
I saw something different for this one, but so tell me about 68 Kill.
I thought 68 Kill was excellent.
Yeah,
really enjoyed it. Really good sort of what do they call it? The Devil's Rejects crossed with a boyfriend who's being oppressed by his psycho bitch girlfriend. That's the way I saw it. Yeah,
that kind of sums it up quite well. Yeah. You've got a guy who's clearly sort of punching above his weight in terms of his hot girlfriend, but obviously she turns out to be hard work, to say the least. And it turns into this whole killing people to get away with this $68,000 $68,000, hence the name. And it all sort of spins out of control. But I mean, it's very light-hearted. It falls under that sort of horror comedy, crime type genre, I would guess. And it's just one of those. It's just kind of a fun ride. It moves along pretty quickly. You're with the character the whole way through, and he just gets into some horrible misadventures with some really nasty people. There are some really dislikable characters.
But it's always women, though, isn't it? In this film, it's always sort of he's always getting into trouble with women, and as the poster shows, that there's the three women in his life, two of which are I say they all have an influence, good or bad.
The interesting thing I thought about it was that from the filmmaker's perspective, I just thought he was just saying, this is what all women are like, but just shown in a high reality in terms of psychosis.
So it wasn't a feminist movie then, Mike? Is that what you're saying?
No, it was the opposite. But that's what struck me, and the fact that the man was shown as the bewildered victim, going in all these bizarre situations. You never know what was happening next. That's what really clicked with me. I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, you know, you could argue that it's got strong female characters. It's only that they've got bad intentions. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, it's worth checking out. It's only 90. It was 93 minutes, and that moved along at a really good pace. And I mean, there's some sicko moments in it. There's some good comedy moments in it. You know, and a lot of action. I mean, it looked like it had a bit of a budget, this film. You know, it seemed quite polished and whatever. And I guess the actor is from Criminal Minds. Is that right?
That's right.
The main guy. Yeah. But no, I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. He's in another film on Netflix. I'll have to try and look it up quickly, but I quite enjoyed that. It's him and Kat Dennings. I think it was like not American Gothic, but something like that. And he plays a character who can see ghosts and stuff. And he's just I have to say, it's outside of Criminal Minds, he does kind of pick these really nice independent films. So I'll find the title while Clive tells us about the film he saw.
Yes. Tell us, Clive.
Yeah, I saw King Cohen at the Prince Charles Cinema, which is a documentary about writer, producer, director, and sort of maverick independent Larry Cohen, who you might know. He's made such films as Q the Winged Serpent, The Stuff, and God Told Me To, Black Caesar. And he's also sold scripts for things like Phone Booth and Bestseller, and even back in the 60s, he was writing for TV. He was he created the series The Invaders,
which is an amazing series. I love The Invaders.
So it basically sort of took you through his whole kind of creative life and how he first got into the movie business, how he got frustrated with people messing up his scripts, and then slowly moved into independent filmmaking. And it was as a filmmaker, it was really inspiring, because just hearing all these tales about how he's like almost the ultimate guerrilla filmmaker, how he would steal shots, how he basically staged a gunfight at the top of the Chrysler building, but didn't tell the police about it, so that or indeed anyone apart from the people who were hiring the building, so that
the good old days.
So that basically people were running and screaming in terror on the ground below, because all these sort of spent cartridges were falling down. And Larry Cohen gets a phone call going, "Oh my God, the people are going nuts down here." So he goes, "Get a camera and get some crowd reactions," which they did, and that's in the film. People running around going, they've got guns up there. So just things like that, and it's full of these fantastic stories. You got they got some big name guests in there, people like J.J. Abrams, Martin Scorsese, John Landis, Joe Dante, all talking about his work and about their experiences with him. It's just full of, and Larry Cohen himself is a really good storyteller. It was just a very entertaining documentary. It's maybe the film that got the most laughs laughs where I was there, just because of all the sort of funny things that happen. So if you're a fan of his films at all, I think it's a must see. I think at the moment it's just going around the festival circuit, but hopefully it's the kind of thing which would be picked up by Netflix or something like that. if you're a filmmaker, I think it's a must see. But if you like things like Not Quite Hollywood, the exploitation documentary, then I think this has a similar kind of feel to it.
Wow. Okay. Well, his series, The Invaders, was incredible. That's one of my favourites. So I'd forgotten he was the man behind that, but because of obviously all his movie credits. But that's cool. Excellent. All right. So that's a documentary well worth checking out then.
I would say so. Yes.
Okay, and I found the name of that film. It's on Netflix. It's called Suburban Gothic. So if you enjoyed him in 68 Kill, then go and check out the Criminal Minds guy in Suburban Gothic.
This is Matthew Gray Goobler or whatever his name is. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, next up we had the world premiere, which I hope when it is released it will be dedicated to Toby Hooper of Leatherface, a new prequel for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Actually, I hope they don't dedicate it, because from what everybody told me about this film, I heard it was terrible.
I thought it was all right.
I don't know. I didn't think it was terrible.
I thought it was mediocre. And there was one interesting little thing they did in it, but overall, they took their sweet time getting to the bit where he goes into Leatherface, and then the justification where he just suddenly changes from this sort of half nice psycho into a complete psycho is little bits of a stretch for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I thought the film was slick and well made and looked good and did serve as a good prequel to a point. But I, like you, my only issue with it, and they did try and do a bit of misdirection with this, but
in the poster, in fact.
Yeah, I mean, I did find it a hard buy to believe that the character that they set up in this, that eventually becomes Leatherface, is the same guy that 10 years following this film would be the Gunnar Hansen character.
Even physically, there was a bit of a
exactly.
Stretch.
I just that was my only problem with it. Although I really enjoyed the journey of watching it, and I really, I thought it was a really well made, slick film and whatever. So I liked it, but that was my only. My only thing was the actual conceit of it was a little bit too much of a stretch, I think, and I think a lot of people felt that way.
Really directed by the guys who made Inside, the French original.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, I mean, and it had a good cast. I mean, you got Stephen Dorff, who managed to get sort of disemboweled twice at FrightFest. But Lily Taylor is really good as sort of mother of I forget what's the name of the family, the Sawyer family.
The
Sawyers. Yeah, the Sawyers. Yeah. It was, obviously when they did the reboot, they also did a sort of prequel film to those, but this one is obviously intended to tie in more with Toby Hooper's original. And as I said, it does a lot of things right, but yeah, I don't know. I just had a little bit of it was too much of a suspension of disbelief at the end for me, which was the only thing that let it down, I thought. What about you, Clive? You saw this one, didn't you?
I did. I had high hopes for this one because I really rate the directors, but I found this very disappointing. While I was watching it, I was kind of enjoying scenes. There's a scene in a diner which is really tense and plays out really well. But it's sort of, there's a big misdirect in there. There's sort of when they sort of and after, because of the turn the film takes, after that I just thought, that's that they sort of cut off their own nose to spite their face, if you see what I mean. They didn't need that in there, and actually it sort of breaks the film doing it, and it sort of and I didn't really buy. And even if you sort of mentally take the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and and the idea that that comes after this film out of your mind, just the psychology of the arc journey that the character's supposed to go on this film, I don't buy it.
It's like a switch, isn't it? It's like a switch.
Well, yeah, there's a switch, but then okay, then there's supposed to be this transformation, and I just did not buy that at all. I just thought that's rubbish, and it just sort of brought the whole film down for me. So even though I kind of enjoyed parts of it as it was going, there was no point where I thought, oh, this is boring or anything. And they're good directors. They know what they're doing, but I just thought it was fatally misjudged for me.
Yeah. It's almost like the impression I got was, why did you even fucking bother, really? It's like, I don't think they've added anything interesting, particularly to the whole canon of Leatherface and Chainsaw Massacre. And, it's like, okay, I was expecting a lot more. I thought the trailer looked really good. It's the only one of the trailers I actually saw. I was expecting a lot more from it. And in the end, it was like, oh, fuck it. That's another one that let me down.
Yeah, I felt the same. I mean, I love films where they expand on a mythology, and with this one, they got the timeline and everything absolutely spot on, which I'm always a bit of a stickler for. But that was the problem. The transformation from mental escapee to Leatherface was like a switch, and it was a really hard buy, both psychologically, both physically. That this would be 10 years further on the character from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That let it down, unfortunately. That ended it on a bit of a bum note as a result.
I just think that the whole story took me a bit by surprise. It's like they went into a mental institute. There was a bit of a road movie and all this malarkey, and I'm like, I thought this was going to be little baby Leatherface at home, and they ingratiate him into the Sawyer family. He chops a few people up, and then maybe they could have even said, oh, maybe there's some girl that he fancied, and there was a relationship, but something happened that totally made him go over the edge, and that would have explained it to me nicely. Thank you very much. They went off on some weird bloody road movie breakout of an asylum, and
but we've seen some of your scripts.
What? Don't you start slagging my stuff off, Paul. You'll get the sack.
Anyway, next up.
Oh well, to end Friday.
Dead Shack.
Dead
Sorry.
Shack.
Or Dead Shit.
Well, no, I mean, this I thought was quite amusing. I mean, I thought that the dad character in this and everything was quite amusing, but it ultimately, didn't
poor.
really go anywhere. Did we all see this? I can't remember.
No, I didn't see it.
Yeah, I saw this.
It was a late night one that I actually stayed to watch, and by the end of it, I'm like, oh God.
Well, I mean, bearing in mind,
wasted opportunity.
Yeah, I was going to say, the sort of line that they had in the program was, take a typical Amblin Entertainment movie from the 1980s and flip it into stark terror, and this dark comedy shocker is what you end up with, kind of thing. But I don't think they quite accomplished that.
The comedy was good early on with the dad, as you said. There's a lot of really cool, funny lines and all the rest of it. And then you get to a sequence where these young children discover a house where there's something strange going on. So they're about to get away. So what does one do? One of the little shits throws a massive fucking rock at the house to attract attention to them, even though they hadn't been discovered up to that point. And for me, that was like, you idiot.
Yeah.
What? Are you kidding me? I know people do stupid things in horror films, but that was ridiculous.
Yeah, it was a bit, and then it transpires that there's like these cannibal. I guess they were cannibals.
They're zombies,
were they
aren't they?
Zombies? I don't know exactly what they were. It wasn't very well fleshed.
They were zombies, I think.
Yeah,
They were. On the undead.
But I don't know. It didn't. for me, it was just okay. As I said, it was mildly amusing. There was some sort of great lines in it and some sort of funny character stuff. But ultimately, everything the characters did, as you rightly said, Mike, was just sort of dumb and stupid, really.
Yeah.
So you didn't end up sort of having much empathy for them, during the film.
Well, it sounds like I enjoyed it more than you guys. Then I thought it was quite fun. I mean, I think it's one of those films where I was glad I saw it with the FrightFest audience because I think that sort of slightly elevated it. I had a good time with it. It gets very repetitive towards the end where they're going back and forth between two isolated houses essentially, and there's some fun. There's some fun gore in there, and I like the dad character as well. It was fun, but it was forgettable.
Yeah, that's very true, because when we were sort of going through the films after the last day, I couldn't remember when we were talking. I knew the name and I couldn't find the thread of what film was. I'd forgotten about it
either. I only remembered it now by looking at the program.
Yeah. So it was kind of a fun to watch. Good bit of sort of harmless entertainment to watch, but quickly forgettable. I think is quite a good sum up of that one, actually. So that brought us into Saturday, which I have to admit I made a mistake here, because from everybody I heard that the first film was absolutely superb, and I missed it. I saw something else, and I kind of kicked myself.
What did you see, Keith?
Well, I went to see. In fact, I went to see two films in the Discovery screen that morning. First off was Mountain Fever, which looked and sounded very interesting. This was the reason I went to see this. This was one of the. Should have mentioned this probably at the beginning. FrightFest are doing a thing now called First Blood. Yes, which is a first film from independent filmmakers.
Specifically UK filmmakers.
UK filmmakers, yeah. And I thought to myself, this is the sort of space that sadly, we're playing in, guys, if we actually get our act together and make something. So I thought I needed to go and check a few of these out. So I went to see this one, which was a sort of contained post-apocalyptic film, with a viral outbreak type thing. Very, very, you could see that they made use of what they had, and they didn't try and be too big because they didn't have the budget. And it was slickly made in terms of the photography, the sound design, the editing, the level of acting. Everything about it was really good. The problem I found with it is ultimately it was just a bit slow and dull. It's only 81 minutes, but to make it a feature. But my God, it felt like a long 81 minutes. It could have done with an action sequence or something to just sort of pick up the pace a bit. But instead, they focused they focused on characterization, and there was this kind of sort of weird love triangle going on between these people that are trying to survive with no food, no resources, and risk of infection. So it played very well on those things, and I think it was a good example of I like the fact that what's the chap from FrightFest that's pioneering this, that's championing this?
Ian Rattray. Ian.
Yes, exactly, Ian. I think it's brilliant that Ian's behind this, and that there's this opportunity. In fact, I left FrightFest this year, quite inspired in terms of every year I always think, oh yeah, I should make a movie, I should have a movie here next year, but always end up getting, kind of somewhat bitter and twisted and depressed about it all. But, this year I felt quite inspired, and I think it is because FrightFest are now giving these first-time filmmakers a chance by having this program specifically. So that's what I went to do. But apparently I made a mistake because you guys are going to tell me how amazing the bar was, right?
Le Bar, as they say in Spain. Was it Le Bar? No.
No, that's what they say in France.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
El Bar.
El Bar, that's
Is that what you
it.
say?
El Bar.
You fucking twat.
Well, you know, I am multilingual. So the bar is like a very good premise, small contained, multi-character driven drama set in a bar where something happens outside, but the film opens up the scope of this location in interesting ways. And I just think if you've got to say to students, look, if you want to see a film produced on a reasonable budget with great character actors, with excellent script, with excellent production values, it's shot really well, the narrative was cleverly constructed, everything about it for me was top notch. It was like the perfect example to show someone how to make a really good movie. That's all I'd say about it. And there was a really nice fit Spanish bird in it as well, which made it even easier to watch.
Damn it!
Absolutely stunning. So, at that point, it was my film of the festival.
Wow.
So,
yes, the bar is a very good movie. It's got a really nice setup where you have these people in a bar, and then someone gets shot as they try to leave the bar. And then slowly you break down in microcosm, and it starts off as this kind of almost like it almost as this black comedy throughout, but then it slowly sort of shifts genres as it goes through. We get a little bit of conspiracy thriller, a little bit of science fiction, a little bit of slasher movie, and then and so they're sort of forced into smaller and smaller spaces. And it's a really well written movie, and this was a nice surprise for me. I mean, I'd like previous work by the director Alex de la Iglesia, but this definitely makes me want to check out more of his stuff. Yeah, really strong film.
So it set the bar high, did it? Yes.
Yes, Keith, it did.
Yeah. Well, put it this way, I've not heard one person say anything bad about this one, so I think I missed a really good film there. I need to try and check that out. Did you see it, Simon?
No, unfortunately, I missed this one. I came in late, so I missed it.
you can get it on DVD at the moment, but
I was going to say me and Paul need to add it to our lists when it comes out
Everyone
in
should
English.
add it
Then
to
I
the
guess.
list. It's
Or
awesome.
when it comes out with subtitles or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a horror movie, but it's a really strong genre movie. It's really good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Sounds better than the next film, which was Alone.
I didn't see this one. I saw something else. But yeah.
Well,
I left Clive about 25 minutes in to leave him alone watching it.
Yeah, it's a French sort of YA sort of high concept sci-fi thing, basically.
Yeah. It's. I have to say, I've seen films similar to it. I'm sure I've seen one like it at FrightFest. I can't remember what it was called, but the story is that a group of teenagers find themselves abandoned in their city in France, and they have to discover what's going on. Won't tell you what it is, but I guess straight away, and I think you'll guess straight away as well. And yeah, there's a mystery element to it. There's somebody. There's another person there or people there who seems to be hunting them, and you don't quite know if it's the government or some sort of psycho or whatever it is. And by the end of it, it kind of the the introduction to the film was, this is like the first of a trilogy, and it certainly sets it up for the next film.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about you, Simon. I thought it was okay initially. Even like as you say, I saw the ending coming like
Yeah.
a mile off. I didn't
Yeah.
necessarily see the sort of sequel coda coming.
Yeah.
But I definitely saw the sort of twist. I liked the characters. I found the initial setup intriguing, but it's a 96-minute film, and it does really drag in the middle. I found myself nodding off a little bit. It gets a bit boring.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
I think it's the kind. If you've read the graphic novel and you're into that series, then you probably get more out of it. But because I found it difficult to get my head around what the idea of the villain was. I mean, it sort of works, but yeah.
I mean, it seemed like when we find out who it is, he's kind of dropped in at the end. You don't really see him throughout most of the film, so you don't feel it's like he's much of a threat, or they're a threat. But the sort of coda at the end was a bit okay. All right, well, maybe the next one might be interesting, but you never know. There's a lot of films at the moment that they set themselves up for sequels or world-building films which fall flat on their face. So we'll have to see if there's a Lone 2 or whatever title they come up with.
Still Alone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Still on Masweeney. Yeah.
So what film did you see, Keith?
Okay, well, I went to see another one of the British First Blood choices, which was a film called Boots on the Ground, which was directed by Lewis Melville. This was a film which is supposed to be set in Afghanistan in 2014, revolving around 5 British soldiers. It was actually apparently shot in some abandoned tunnels and whatever in Kent, but it worked quite well. This is a film that's shot entirely. I know some of you don't like found footage stuff. This is shot entirely from cameras on the soldiers' helmets.
Right.
So it's one of those. But you know what? I actually think it was really quite slickly done and well made. Technically, they had quite a feat to pull this all off. As I said, it's set in a labyrinth of tunnels, which there's a sort of a threat from another realm, as it were, in the form of these creatures. So there's some CGI work in this that's actually quite good as well, because because it's done from everybody's point of view, you only get quick flashes of these things. So it's all quite effective. But it's one of these, running around, trying to find what's going to get them and who's going to get killed next, and lots of characters breaking down and banter and stuff like that between them. But my hat's off to these filmmakers. I thought this had been well polished in post-production. As I said, it had a bit of an experimental feel with the fact that it was shot by all of the actors. It was shot and lit and framed by the actors while they were acting. Must have been an absolute nightmare when it came to the edit to sort of piece this together. But it was slick, and it did work, and it was entertaining. It's only 86 minutes long, but I wasn't bored at all during this. So, hats off to those filmmakers. It's something I would have loved to have been in a film like that. It was a lot of fun. So, good stuff.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like I dodged a bullet with that one as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, not brilliant, but nothing awful. Not like our next one.
No.
Jackals.
Well, I wouldn't say Jackals was awful.
Oh.
Okay.
I disagree, but Jackals starts off with the opening sequence of Halloween. I mean, it is literally the opening sequence to Halloween, and then then it cuts to this family waiting in a cabin in the woods for somebody to turn up, and you see this these guys kidnap a bloke off the road, throw him into the back of a van, and then we find out that he's the guy who's been kidnapped as the son of this family, and he's been brainwashed into this cult, and what ends up happening is the cult wants him back.
I remember chatting outside, just saying that the film should have been taken a more sort on Precinct 13 style rather than the one that we ended up with. I haven't got much to say about this really, other than I thought Deborah Kara Unger was underutilized greatly, and again some stupid decisions by some of the actors. There's one bit where one guy tries to escape and then all the cult are wearing these masks and stuff, and I thought, well, why didn't he just take all the gear off the guy they knocked out or whatever upstairs? He could have blended in,
put the mask on.
So it was, and some of the masks reminded me of that other film we saw a few years ago.
You're Next?
Let's get a bit overused, the rabbit mask or the fox mask or whatever they are. It's like, oh god, okay. So I think that they missed an opportunity there. I like the idea of getting someone from a cult and deprogramming them, and they didn't get a chance to do any of the deprogramming at all. And the guy who did the deprogramming, who seemed like he could handle himself, he did a stupid thing. Stephen Dorff. And he was out the film far too early, because if he'd have stayed in, they could have barricaded themselves in and done a real assault on Precinct 13 job on it. But it wasn't to be, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say, I think the problem because Stephen Dorff's character was so strong, and the family you didn't really care about. So when he went, you were stuck with his family, and that really brought it down for me.
Yeah, I agree.
No, I must admit, I thought it was well made and stuff. But the problem I had with it is it just didn't really go anywhere, and just ended up just being a complete and utter downer, all round, with very little happening, just a few moments of nastiness and whatever, but I had higher hopes for this, so it was a bit of a letdown, but I didn't think it was awful, but at the same time, it's forgettable. It's another one of those ones that I probably won't even remember, 3 months from now or whatever. What did you think, Clive?
I thought it had there were some nice creepy moments. It had a lot of potential, and then it didn't really do much with that. And so I found it very disappointing, because initially I was thinking, oh, this could be really creepy, and that's a good idea. But then they just made, they just made some very odd choices, and it just didn't pay off at all. And it ended up feeling a little bit long, and it's only an 85-minute film.
Yeah, it's not a good sign, is it?
No, so I was in the end I was disappointed. I sort of liked the fact that you had a character in it who's like the brother of the sort of evil of the sort of cult influenced brother, who was kind of a bit of a dick, but at the same time he's actually right almost throughout the entire film. But you sort of so there was some nice sort of family dynamics going on, but then there were other bits where you kind of like, that just doesn't. That's not really working. So yeah, it's a shame. There were some nice little bits and pieces, but it didn't. Ultimately, it didn't add up to what it could have been, I think. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the next one I avoided like the plague.
That was a good move, Keith.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to say, when you have a film called Attack of the Adult Babies, you're expecting a lot, and I just don't think it went stupid enough.
See, I gave it a miss because it sounded too stupid, but okay.
So this was directed by Dominic Brunt, who had previously done a film called Bait that I thought was really good.
Yeah, Bait was excellent.
Yeah,
and this film looked like it was made by someone who made Carry On films back in the day, and it looked like he had a location, like a really big manor house, and they arrived there and they decided to just try and make a film on the fly, and also the the adult babies thing was really just a side issue. Really, they didn't really go into the psychology or anything interesting or make a statement about it at all. It's just like, oh yeah, all people that do this are rich toffs, and you know.
Well, you're right. They didn't do the adult babies seriously enough. They made it into this sort of sci-fi thing where they regressed into babies, and then they suddenly had like pig snouts. So they didn't even sort of take that seriously.
No. So overall, this was a real steaming turd of a film that Dominic Brunt's put his name to, unfortunately. I mean, just the cinematography was non-existent. I mean, there's a scene at the beginning in a house that was, for me, shot totally badly, and you even got overblown outside lighting in the exposure. So fuck knows who was in charge of the camera on that film. I don't know.
Yeah, the lighting was very flat.
And they had English actors pretending to be Russian mobsters with very piss poor accents, and the whole thing came across very, very amateurish, almost as bad as that one that I suffered a few years ago at FrightFest, which was it Zombie Strippers or something? Or something like that. What was that
Probably.
one with a dwarf that kept breaking wind and everyone thought because he had a northern accent it was funny?
Zombie Women of Satan.
That one, was another steaming turd, and this ranks right up alongside that in the great pantheon of why the fuck they waste the money doing that.
Right, I will say it's not as bad as Zombie Women of Satan. I think Zombie Women of Satan is an awful film, and I think they did try, but I think the ideas they had for this was just they weren't very good ideas, or or as I say, they didn't go stupid enough.
It's just a shock that Brunt can do something so finely crafted as Bait, and then
but I mean,
spit out this steaming.
But this guy, I mean, I know he's a Fright Fest favourite and whatever, but from what I know, his stuff's pretty amateur anyway, isn't it? Generally.
No, Bait was very good. Bait
was
very accomplished. I mean, it was a few actors, it was a few locales, and it worked really well. It was a really good character piece. So, and I haven't seen his zombie film, but a lot of people really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So it's solid. It looks low budget, but it's a solid zombie film before dawn, I would say.
But did you like this one, Clive?
Did I like this? I could see what they were going for. I mean, it's designed to be this deliberately bad taste, sort of puerile, outrageous horror comedy that is deliberately kind of nodding to this sort of Carry On movies and sort of this exploitation, Confessions of a Window Cleaner type sort of 70s thing, and it throws a lot of ideas in there, but it's a strange mix. I found it entertaining and amusing in parts, but they were interspersed with large parts which just felt really amateurish and really poorly done. So it felt very disjointed. There was some weird kind of little comedy interstitials which I actually enjoyed, but then. And there were some good performances, and there were also some atrocious performances. So it's really like a curate's egg, but the good is you really have to search for that in there. I mean, there's a bit where it goes into claymation animation, which is well done. There's a few nice ideas, but. There aren't, it's called Attack of the Adult Babies, and the adult babies side of it isn't really developed enough. There isn't enough of that. You get more sort of this family dynamic and as you say, these bad sort of mobsters. It's ultimately, it's not a film I can recommend. I'm sorry to say that because I really liked Bait. I knew this wasn't going to be like Bait because it was obviously going for more of a sort of John Waters meets Inbred vibe. But
I got an Inbred vibe from that as well. Yeah,
but I think I'm not a fan of Inbred, but I think that's a better movie.
Yeah,
I like Inbred,
which actually is well paced and and goes and is unabashed about what it's going for. This one, it felt like if they took 10 minutes out of the film, then it would work better, because it just felt like they laboured on certain things. There were points where the film felt like just stopped dead, and then started again. And it's ultimately, it's an experiment for trying, but it's not one I enjoyed. Sorry,
Paul, what were you going to say?
Well, how would you compare it? Because one of my favourite films, Ted Post, The Baby, I really, really enjoyed. I'm just interested what you think in the comparison between the two, if you've seen them both.
I've not seen that one. Have you guys seen that one?
No.
I have to say I haven't. Sorry.
I've not seen that one, Paul. Sorry, no.
You have some obscure tastes.
Yeah. It's something I caught late. Directed by Ted Post in the late 70s. Highly recommended for obscure horror films, called The Baby.
Oh, cool. I do like Ted
Post. Like the director.
Ted Post's other stuff,
Yeah, absolutely.
That title really appealed to me, so it's interesting that you guys didn't enjoy it, but I think go and watch The Baby, which is a really, really bad film, but it's really good in an obscure, sort of interesting way.
Knowing your sense of humour, Paul, I don't think you'd think that about this Attack of the Adult Babies. I think you would probably agree with us, but maybe I'll get it and we'll watch it, and then I'll make you sit through it.
I think I'd recommend go and watch The Baby, directed by Ted Post. That is
okay.
Right.
Next.
Well, while you guys were watching that, I saw. I went to see Redwood, which is directed by Tom Patton. I went to see it because I like the sound of the premise, and
Tim recommended it very highly.
Well, I was going to say I'd listened to Stuart Wright's podcast with the director, and I thought the director spoke really well and kind of liked what he was trying to set up. I'll be honest though, when I went to, there was only 2 times in the whole of FrightFest that I dozed off slightly, and I have to say this film was one of them. I couldn't really buy into it because it wasn't well made. The production values were pretty bad. The acting wasn't very good at all. And the thing that really wound me up about it is this is one of those stories about, a guy and a girl that, go out camping in the woods sort of thing. But I was really wound up that both the filmmaker and the actors had clearly never been camping or backpacking in their entire life, just because of the way they handled the equipment and the backpacks and everything. It just really annoyed me, so I kind of tuned out. I tuned out. It was just crap. But to be honest, I missed most of the film, so there could have been a good film in there that I slept or I dozed through. But
there's a scene apparently where they go to Outdoor World and buy Gore-Tex jackets, Keith.
Yeah, whatever. But
their card gets refused at Rohan.
There was some dreadful acting in it. I mean, it just didn't feel. Again, listening to the director, I was totally with him in terms of his intention and whatever, but did he deliver it? Not from my point of view, no. I mean, I've been in some films that are like this, that are poorly made, and it really didn't do it for me. So
I'm searching Prime for one of those. You just made me remember. I'm going to watch it, Keith.
What's that?
Attack of Bigfoot or something that you're in.
Anyway, so next up was
Victor Crowley, aka Hatchet 4, which originally was going to be the 10th anniversary screening of Hatchet. So,
So I nearly missed it. I mean, you called me out on this, Simon, on our podcast with Claire.
Yeah.
I'll say it right now. Really like Adam Green, and I like some of his films, but I was not a fan of the original Hatchet at all. So I wasn't going to come and see this, and I wasn't really looking forward to it. However, I thoroughly enjoyed this experience. I think watching it with the FrightFest crowd brought a lot to it. And made it that much more enjoyable. And the fact that Adam Green and Kane Hodder were there. And I have to say right now, Dylan, the actor, which is a character in this film, I mean, he should have his own movie. That just made me absolutely roar with laughter right from the minute he came on the screen and did his sort of really bad repertoire of bad John Wayne, Robert De Niro and Christopher Walken impressions, even misquoting them, I just thought was genius. So no, I take it back. I didn't want to see Hatchet, but I went and saw Victor Crowley, and I had a thoroughly fun time with this, and I think most people did.
I agree. I thought it's a return to form for Adam Green for the Hatchet movies, because they did get a little bit long in the tooth, and he came out with an interesting scenario, and I say all of the comedy actually landed in the right way for me, because I did say to him outside the front that I've watched Holliston, and it didn't really I didn't really find a lot of it funny, that what I did see of Holliston, but this it was great, and the makeup effects and the kills are always great sort of crowd pleasers. And I do like the character of Victor Crowley. He is sort of stuck in a little bit of he's made a rod for his own back, really, because Victor Crowley, unlike Jason, is sort of a ghost that reappears every night in the same location. So it's not like you can get Victor Crowley Goes to Manhattan or anything like that, which some people may say.
Yeah, because let's be honest, actually, that was a great film, wasn't it?
No, but you know what I'm saying. It does really restrict the entire film if you're going to make another one of people ending up in his domain every single time.
Oh, I think. I mean, just from the fact that they were able to bring him back after they had killed him off at the end of the third one. Sorry, spoiler. Yeah. But I think they could find a way of getting him to, be in another location.
Or somewhere else.
Yeah, it's
maybe.
When it comes to like voodoo curses and stuff, there's always a spell for that. So, I think they'd find a way around it. I mean, plausible or not plausible, but Victor Crowley, it was a FrightFest film. That's the kind of films you go to FrightFest to see, the ones where the audience are cheering at the kills and they're laughing, and it's a really good time. And it was a very good film. I enjoyed it. It was good to have that kind of film, because up to that point I was starting to wonder, because we'd been there for 3 days and there hadn't been that real crowd pleaser yet. So it was really good that Victor Crowley was that crowd pleaser, and it was great to see Adam Green sort of, I think, gave quite an emotional and kind of inspirational sort of introduction to it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. As I said at the beginning, I was quite moved by what he said, and he spoke very well. And then thoroughly entertained by the film that followed. And this is coming from a guy that I admit was not a fan of the original Hatchet at all. So it was a great evening, and we definitely saw it with the right crowd, I think, for sure.
Yeah.
Clive, did you like it?
I did. I had a really good time with it. I have to say, in the past, I tend to prefer his sort of films like Frozen or Spiral over the Hatchet movies. But I thought this is easily the sort of best of the Hatchet movies that I've seen. I had a fantastic time. And as you say, it was one of those ones where the festival experience just elevated the film. I don't know if I watch it again, just at home, whether I'll get quite the same buzz out of it. But yeah. It was really good fun. I thought Felissa Rose, who fans will know from the original Sleepaway Camp, was brilliant as his agent. And as you say, Keith, Dave Sheridan was fantastic as the actor Dylan. He was so funny. So yeah, I mean, it was just a really good fun time all round. And if you're a slasher movie fan, you've got to see it. It's a must see.
Yeah. So, moving on to the final film of the day, Game of Death.
I like this.
I thought it was good. It was a cool premise, had some great effects in it, but ultimately you knew what was going to happen in the end, pretty much. So
yeah, I think it lost its way a little bit. I think it started off really strong. But did sort of lose its way a bit. But I noticed you and Tim were enjoying it in terms of the gore and splatter.
Yeah,
if you like.
Yeah, I like the they had basically these teens find a little board game that everyone has to put their finger on. And it's got like an 8-bit sort of vibe to it. And when all their fingers go on it, it takes some blood from each of their fingers and seals the contract, so to speak. And it then gives them a randomized number which appears in the middle, which then happens to be the number of people that have got to die or be killed by the participants. Otherwise, one of them will die at a predetermined set time amount has
nastily elapsed.
Yeah, so that's it in a nutshell. So yeah, really
premise.
well made. Yeah, I like it. Good
Did everybody
movie.
see this?
No, I went.
Did you all see this? Clive, did you watch this one? I can't remember.
No, I watched a different movie. I watched one of the First Blood entrants.
Which one?
I watched Canaries.
Oh, okay. How was that?
I really enjoyed Canaries. It's a Welsh movie about this sort of strange alien invasion involving sort of time slips, and it's like a horror comedy set in a small Welsh town in the valleys, and yeah, it's sort of. You could see the low budget, but at the same time, it's actually quite sort of tightly paced. And it starts off by flitting all around the world. You could see where people have been on holiday and it's stolen footage, which is quite nice. And sort of setting up all these alien abductions, and then you have this sort of slow the attack of these sort of strange humans that have been altered by the alien invaders, who are all wearing these sort of yellow rain slickers, hence the sort of Canaries title. And that's sort of explained later on. But it's a really fun film. And I have to say, weirdly, even though this is at the Prince Charles, this is the loudest screening I went to, because half the screening seemed to be from either sort of members of the cast and crew or a load of people that are coming from Wales, especially for this world premiere. And it was really loud and raucous. Everyone was really enjoying it, and it was really funny actually. Even before the film start. Clearly, a lot of people have been drinking for most of the day before they got there, and one of the cast members sort of was like pointing at various members of the audience, including me, and going, "I see you. That you be kind now. You be kind." Just sort of berating us and sort of giving us the eye, and was absolutely off her face. And it was really it was a kind of like bizarre experience, but at the same time. I thought the film itself, it had a really nice score. The sound design, they spent time on that, so the sound was really good, and actually had some creepy moments, despite the fact that the monsters could have used a little bit more budget. Let's just say that. So yeah, it's
fair enough.
It's a very low budget film, but I hope it does get picked up by someone for home video release. Because it's, I think it's got things to recommend it.
Fair enough. Okay.
Okay.
Well, now we can start bringing Paul into the conversation, because we're moving on to Sunday, which was the day you were there, Paul, right?
Yeah.
Now,
So tell
Sunday
us about the
started
first
very
film.
strong. Yeah.
Killing Ground.
Yes.
What do you
Uh,
think, Paul?
I thought it was brilliant. It was very dark and really well shot film, and had a real genuine feeling of isolation for those who do or don't go camping. But what I really liked is the interplay between the two stories of the film. I thought that was really well done. And I was a little bit disappointed that it was a bit of a cop-out because the final sequences were done in the dark. But overall, I thought it was excellent. I thought it was really, really good.
Yeah, Tim and I would bemoan the fact that when one of the chief nasty people in the film gets his final comeuppance, there wasn't more claret that you could actually see. They sort of copped out on the final gore effects, I thought.
Right.
Yeah, I'd agree
Okay.
with that. But what I really liked is that there were two sort of heroes, but as the film developed, there was only one real hero, not giving too much away, that I really
Yeah.
enjoyed. And
Yeah.
I thought it was excellent, and it was really, really dark.
Yeah.
It was,
No.
was a hard, I'll say it was a hard watch, but it was pretty
Yeah,
tough.
it was. Yeah, I thought this is an Australian film, and I thought this was very strong. You're right. I mean, it was very, very dark and quite nasty. But what I thought was quite interesting, obviously, it kind of had this sort of split time narrative, which worked nicely. But the other thing about it was is what they didn't show, because there was some quite nasty stuff that happened off screen on this. But it almost
a better way of doing it, really.
Yeah, I was going to say it almost made it worse, because you'd sort of see the aftermath and just imagine what nastiness had taken place. And I really felt for the young couple that had gone on this camping trip together. And the family that was also on that trip, that, with the situation that they'd been put in with these nasty people, these nasty redneck type characters that brutalize them and are just very cruel throughout. And it was a very, very hard watch. But if we're talking horror, which, that's what this festival's all about, I thought this was a really, really strong contender as being, one of the best movies of the festival. What did the rest of you think?
Unfortunately, I didn't get to see this one. Clive?
Oh,
I thought it's a very strong film. Yeah, I mean, this is easily in my top 3 for the whole festival. It's if you're a fan of things like previous kind of extreme
Wolf Creek,
particularly Wolf Creek, extreme sort of Australian cinema, the sort of true crime aspects. There's some sequences which are really hard to sit through, but at the same time, as you were saying, Keith, it does make some really intelligent choices. I think the build-up is a lot better than perhaps the final payoff. But then the way it leaves you, I think, is sort of quite affecting. So, ultimately, whilst I don't think it's 100% successful in everything it does, it is one of those films that sort of sits with you, and you do think about it after the fact because of certain choices it makes. So, yeah, I thought it was a very strong film, and if you're at all a genre fan, you need to check it out.
Yeah. It's also a film that managed to make the audience gasp in a couple of places as well. I can't say what because they would be spoilers, but I remember bringing my hand up to my mouth in shock at one thing in it. So it definitely stays with you, and it was definitely a way to wake you up on a Sunday morning for sure.
I think you made the point earlier, Keith, when Mike talking about watching a film, he leant over to me and went, "I wouldn't do that." In the same way that when you watch a film, you go, "No, don't do that. Do this." There was a few genuine moments where you go, no, don't do that. And that made the film much more enjoyable. That was really good.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Right. Okay, moving on. We've got the next film was The End.
Not for me, it wasn't, but yeah.
Yeah. Man trapped in a lift, Italian film. He's a businessman, he's a bit of an arsehole, he's cheating on his wife, and there's a zombie outbreak, and he gets stuck in the lift. The end.
Okay. Any good?
No, it looked good, and it must have been hell trying to concentrate most of the film on a guy in a lift. Had a few interesting characters, but overall, I'm sick and tired of zombie films. So it wasn't giving me anything that I found particularly interesting that I haven't seen 100 times before. Well,
for me, what I liked about it, that I was in another cinema away from you guys, which is a new experience for me. Like, just go and sit in a film in a cinema on your own, because I've never done that before. And actually added to I've got no friends. Actually added to the enjoyment and the isolation that the film was trying to demonstrate. So I actually really enjoyed this film. I thought it was really well shot. There's some really funny moments where he has to utilise the stuff around him in order to survive. I thought it was really good. It was thoroughly entertaining. So I'll give it a double thumbs up. It's a good entertaining film.
Wow. Okay. Did you see it, Simon?
No, I'm not a fan of the makers of this film. They had a film at FrightFest quite a few years ago called Prada 3D, and I was not a big fan of that. So
Power 3D, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So I had to correct you there.
It's all right. It's translated into Fear 3D, and
there's something about Wang, the arrival of Wang.
The arrival of Wang, yeah.
Which I actually quite liked, believe it or not. I quite like that film.
Yeah, so it's, hearing that this film was from them, I decided to miss it completely, because I just knew that I wouldn't have enjoyed it. So, decided to come in later. Did you
see? Oh, you didn't see anything else.
No,
just came in later.
Else,
right?
Yeah.
How about Clive?
I went to see In Control at the Prince Charles.
As did I.
Yeah. What was that like?
It's a Canadian. It's more of a sci-fi film in some respects. It's a Canadian film directed by Curtis David Harder, and I actually quite enjoyed this. The tagline of this is "You can be anyone you want to be," and it's one of these things that sort of deals with. It centres around a bunch of college/university students that it's not really explained how, but they get this piece of technology that they can plug into that actually allows them to experience lives of other people, so they can effectively sort of jump into that person's body and experience life through them. And it deals with, sort of all these sort of questions about, identity, and whether we're in control of our actions and our destiny, and all of that sort of thing. And I really enjoyed this. I kind of liked the themes of this and really sort of bought into it and had quite fun with it, actually. One of the things, if I had to criticize it, though, I would say what they did to make it a little bit made it a little bit difficult to follow, because they would be jumping, the group of them would be going and jumping into a load of people at a party, for example, like a frat party type thing. But those people would then be played by different actors. And they didn't do, I know it's a bit cheesy, but they didn't do any of the sort of quantum leap tricks or anything where, if they looked in a mirror, you'd see which character it was. So you had to sort of really pay attention to understand who was actually who in this, and I thought that that could be a little bit difficult to follow in places, but ultimately it worked, and it had a twist which I won't spoil, but I had quite a lot of fun with this and enjoyed it. What about you, Clive?
I thought it was okay, but I was a bit bored. So I like the setup, and I didn't have a problem following who they were jumping into. I thought that was okay, but it just visually, it's such a bland film. It had this almost sort of IKEA catalogue aesthetic going on, where everything's quite sort of slick, but everything's all these sort of neutral tones and everything's muted. And I felt that was true of the drama too. It's like you've got this technology, you can jump into any body you like, and while you're in there, you can influence these people to do these things you wouldn't normally do. But no one in the group really pushes the envelope there that much. People take a few bad choices, but it never really. It's like they deliberately sort of say, "Oh, we're going to steer away from this sort of more anything which smacks of exploitation or the sort of more extreme end of the genre," and that's fine. That's a choice, but ultimately it felt a bit safe for me. And the ending, I thought the twist ending is okay, but it just at the end of it, I just felt like they could have gone further with the setup. So yeah, it was okay, but a bit vanilla for me.
Yeah, no, that's a fair comment, and it almost felt in some respects like it would make a good TV series or mini series or something, because like you said, they didn't really sort of go there too much, but with some of the things they could have done, obviously I guess based on the fact that it had a fairly low budget, but it did ask quite a few of those sort of moral questions about personality and are we in control of our actions and all that sort of stuff. So I thought it was quite provocative on those sort of levels, but you're right, it was also somewhat safe in the choices that it made, but it was enjoyable. What was on in the main screen? I don't know, because I missed that, obviously.
All right, so the next one on the main screen was Double Date, which I have to say I enjoyed. It was a comedy horror, a bit light on the horror, but the comedy was quite good. I mean, the synopsis is that this guy who's a bit of a loser and a virgin, his best mate's trying to, pop his cherry, but he doesn't help him out much. And then these two girls, he meets these two girls in a bar, and they go out. They all go out on a double date that night, and they want to bring him back to their house to, I don't know whether to spoil it or not, but they're up to no good. And I was kind of surprised. This was a film that I thought, I'm going to get 5 minutes. If I don't enjoy it, I'm going to walk out. And I didn't. I enjoyed it. It was fun.
Yeah, it looks like it had attractive people in it from the poster.
Yeah, well,
that help?
I don't know, that's a bit debatable, but
I don't know. Okay,
the
girl in the poster was hot. Yeah.
Yeah, it's low budget-esque, but I thought what they did was what they said. They wanted to make a horror comedy, British horror comedy that wasn't shit. That's what they said, the directors, and I would agree. It wasn't shit. It was okay. And the humour was funny. The character who was his best mate was hilarious. And it had probably one of the best on-screens women beating up a man fight scenes.
Oh, God, yeah.
Which was very impressive. It was very well done. So overall, I was like, yeah, that's all right.
Cool.
Nothing more than that.
Yeah.
Did you see this, Paul?
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. It was trying to do Shaun of the Dead, and unfortunately for me, didn't really hit the mark. But the guy who plays his best mate, who I think he was in This Is England as a supporting actor, is absolutely superb in it. And it's worth it just to see him, and a lot of the comedies focused on him. But really missed the mark for me, and I'd rather go and see The Snarling that me and Mike saw at Southend Horror Festival.
Yeah, Snarling is excellent.
To really get horror comedy right. And it felt as like it was like a road trip college buddy rom-com with no real horror.
Yeah.
And it missed the mark, but it was all right. It was entertaining. It was okay.
It's watchable, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's a real plug for me to go and see The Snarling if you want to see.
Yeah, I saw that one, I think, with you guys, didn't I?
Yeah.
Was that at Southend?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I think having watched that as a horror comedy and Shaun of the Dead, it missed the mark for me. But it's very good in terms of the acting, but complete lack of horror and some set pieces that shouldn't really have been in it and felt a bit forced. But otherwise, it was fairly entertaining.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, next up, I think we all saw the next film in the main screen. We had.
We missed one. We've missed one out, Keith.
Have we missed
Clive?
one?
While they were watching Double Day, I was looking
Replace. Yes,
Replace. You watching
Replace? Yes.
How could you
sorry,
Clive
Clive.
out, Keith? You bastard.
No. I saw Replace as well. In fact, this is a great film. So we can't miss this out. This was one of the strongest ones. With Barbara Crampton, your favourite, Mike.
Oh, good. What was that like?
It was really good. Essentially, it's like a three-hander. You've got this young woman, Kira, who's played by Rebecca Forsyth, and she's suffering from this sort of affliction of the skin, where her skin is aging really, really quickly. But she finds that the only way to sort of counter this is to graft on skin from living people, or from dead people, and it's sort of, it's like basically it turns into a bit of a kind of Countess Dracula sort of update where she sort of becomes addicted to kind of rejuvenating herself, shall we say? And Barbara Crampton is the sort of doctor stroke mad scientist involved in this sort of anti-aging program that she's effective with. And then there's also a sort of her neighbor who she becomes involved with in a lesbian relationship, who also turns out to have links to Barbara's character. And it's a beautifully shot film. This was director Norbert Kiel co-wrote this with Richard Stanley, who genre fans will know from Hardware, Dust Devil, etc. And it's a really strong movie. I think it's worth checking out. Yeah.
No, I would agree with that. I mean, this really dealt with the whole sort of body horror thing in a really imaginative way. It was very glossy. The photography, the lighting, and everything in this was really top notch. It brought up some really good sort of issues, if you like, social issues about ageist society and vanity and all of those sort of things. And it was quite good because you had sort of three actresses that sort of approached it from a different point of view. So obviously Barbara Crampton looking at the sort of science and technology behind it, the neighbor looking at the more sort of
Lucy Aaron
looking at the more sort of psychological side, and then Rebecca Forsyth being purely about the sort of image and vanity aspect of it. It also had an actor friend of mine in it, so it's always good. Sean Knopp, who's I've acted with before, and it's good to see that he's out there and his career's going in the right direction, and he's getting to be in these sort of things. So he wasn't in it very much, but it was good to see him.
I wanted to ask if he was any good in it.
Yeah, I mean he's not in it a great deal, to be fair, but.
Right.
Hey, he's in it. He's right at the beginning of the film. essentially. So, but yeah, this I would say is a really strong contender. Like you said, Norbert Kill did a good job of this, and obviously, you know, there was Richard Stanley's involvement in the sort of whole development of it, as Clive had already said. So, a really good film, well worth a watch, definitely.
Excellent. Right, so did we all see Mayhem?
Yep.
We did.
Joe Lynch film.
That's it. So if you know, Adam Green and Joe Lynch are good friends, and they always appear in each other's films, and they did Holliston together. So this was like the, I don't know, second act from those guys, and I have to say it was a film I was looking forward to, and again thoroughly enjoyed. Though I think he kind of held back a bit, though, didn't he? I don't think it was as gory as it could have been, but it was good fun.
Looked good, well shot.
I was gonna say
well
it was
acted.
a fun. It was more of a. This one played really much on the sort of you know corporate comedy aspect, didn't it? Really, and obviously it had Stephen Young from Walking Dead in it, and Samara Weaving, and. I mean, this one again was a crowd pleaser, wasn't it? Very much.
I thought Stephen Young was excellent in this film. Now that he has broken away from The Walking Dead, where I wanted to kill him myself with a baseball bat, his character anyway. I like the premise, and again, we did have a discussion about a theme of Fright Fest, and viral type outbreaks or viruses seem to be a common theme, and this one was very clever because it was like a virus that would only last 8 hours, and during that time, if you contracted it and you killed someone or screwed your secretary or whatever, you were basically, there's no criminal charges to be brought against you. You could get off scot-free doing whatever you wanted, because it basically removed all your inhibitions. And in a workplace, anyone who works in a workplace, we all want to kill our boss, and you know, who knows about the secretary option, but that's, and it's a bit like the Raid, really, because he had to get to the top floor, the upper echelons, to confront the top boss, but there was always obstacles in his way, and obviously there was a time element where if the time ran out, he wouldn't then be able to have the law. So if he wanted to do some damage to someone, he wouldn't have the law on his side and acquit him of any wrongdoings. So it's quite an interesting concept, and it looked quite a fairly big budget to me. Look very slick, and Joe Lynch, you know, I think he's a good filmmaker. He certainly seems to be operating, unlike Adam Green, who's got Ariscope, which is his own studio, and he's funding his own projects through that way. But Lynch, I think, is going off and getting his own gigs. So yeah, really solid, really enjoyed it, me. What do you think, guys?
Well, I just wanted to say about Joe Lynch. He's always been doing, been getting projects, because the first film he did was Wrong Turn 2. So, you know, he was brought on that film as a director for hire, and I think
which was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't had a chance to see it, but I've heard good things about it.
It's
gory as hell.
But I mean, you know, he kind of got screwed when he did Knights of Badassdom. I mean, he literally had the film taken away from him.
Well, this is interesting because that was a project that sounded a bit like a personal project where he was trying to do an Adam Green, do his own thing, and it all went tits up, didn't it?
I quite like that film.
Have you seen it?
Yeah. I've actually been LARPing, so I thought it was quite funny. So, okay, we won't go any further with this conversation.
No. What did you think of Mayhem?
What do you think of Mayhem, Paul?
I love Mayhem. I thought it was absolutely brilliant, really funny. There's some really, really funny moments with post-its that I won't go any further with. But yeah, I thought it was excellent, and I think the highest praise was that I just thought my wife would absolutely love this film. I think it's excellent, and it is, as Mike alluded to, it's definitely a film for the eye rather than for the brain, because it's quite fast paced and quite high octane. But yeah, really, really good. I loved it.
Fair enough.
Excellent. Clive, what did you think?
I also had a good time with it. It was a good Fright Fest movie in terms of the audience. It reminded me a bit. It had a sort of certain computer game element where you have each level would have an end of boss. Like big boss they had to fight before they could level up to the next level. So it had this sort of almost like structure like that, and they were collecting weapons along the way. But what I also liked was all the kind of incidental things in the background. So whilst they'd be confronting someone in the foreground, in the background you'd have like two people having sex on top of a photocopier, or someone else with like sort of post-its splattered all over their face, screaming to high heaven or something like that. So there's all these little bits where I sort of think it's a film I quite look forward to rewatching, so I can pick out all the bits where that are going on in the background, and I know there are a few sort of in jokes and bits and pieces there. I think it's quietly sort of subversive of what it's saying about workplace culture as well. But it's mainly interested in being a sort of enjoyable, fun ride, and that's what it is.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Right. Moving on to the last film of the day, which was Villainess, or The Villainess.
Wow. Yes, this was amazing. I thought
South Korean film, isn't it?
Yeah, Asian cinema. This film was so slick, it was unbelievable. But also the way this film was shot was incredible. I mean, you went from point of view cam right out of that almost seamlessly into action, which would seamlessly appear like one continuous for much of the opening. You had all sorts of stunts and fights, whether they were sort of on foot, on motorcycles, hand-to-hand combat, knives, guns, you name it, it was in this, and it was amazingly slick and well done. But then it turned into it's one of these another film where you had this sort of split narrative timeline, with the sort of past story and the future story meeting somewhere in the middle. But you also had this, then it turned into this sort of wonderful drama piece for the middle third, and then sort of back into high octane action again. And I just thought that this was well, it's one of those things. It had horror elements, but it was really more of a high octane action movie. But it was definitely one of the contenders for one of the strongest movies of the festival, in my humble opinion.
I think you described that perfectly, Keith. And my 10 pence is that it looked amazing, and it basically gave a middle finger to all the other filmmakers that I'd seen up to that point, and said, this is how you make an action film. And an interesting, the acting comes across, even though it's subtitled, which may give it an advantage. The acting was top notch, and it had a really interesting story that at one point could be a tad. Some people complain it was a bit confusing, and it's not a racist thing. It's just that a lot of the characters you get to see briefly and you're trying to. The trouble is you're taking your mind off of what's on the screen sometimes by trying to read the bloody subtitles. So you lose the thread sometimes of who the fuck who is, and I did get it in the end. But I mean, if you weren't focused 100% on everything going on in the subtitles, you might lose what the fuck was going on. But it did resolve itself for me brilliantly, and the action scenes were stunning. The violence was awesome, and it was the slickest, polished. The South Korean films just look so goddamn polished. I don't know how it is. I said this to Adam Green. He said it's something to do with the lenses they use on their cameras or whatever. I'm not so sure. I don't know, but it was awesome.
I was going to say the marriage of the photography, the stunt work, and the editing of this was incredible. It really worked, and
the strange environments and the neon glows and the night cities and all the stuff that you get from these movies just looked incredible. And the main actress, she was just to actually have the chops to do the emotional acting required for the role, and then next minute do these amazing stunts was mind blowing.
Yeah, it had that wonderful steely blue look to it, didn't it? Which I loved.
I loved it. Mm.
What did everybody else think?
Yeah, sorry, I missed that, so I went home. So it'd been a long day.
He's only been there for a day.
Yeah, but it's his first time. He couldn't handle it.
Yeah, but the only thing I'd say is like the idea of watching that many films in just one day, I thought I'd really struggle with, but I'd say I really enjoyed it, and having actually been there, I'd just say it was a really, really good experience, and I was surprised that I could watch that many films and enjoy it. Come outside, have a coffee, have a chat with people, and everyone was really friendly. And even going to see a film on my own, which I'd never actually done before, to go and see the End, which is the Italian zombie film. It was an interesting experience, but yeah, really enjoyed it. But I missed the villainess, which I'm gutted about, hearing from what Mike says. Just thought I just had nothing to get the train.
Well, it's coming out from Arrow Video in end of October, and I've got mine pre-ordered with Amazon already. That's going to be added to my list.
Come round yours and watch it then.
Yeah. Did Clive and Simon see this?
Yes, yeah. I saw this. But Clive, do you want to go first?
Okay. I did watch this, but I have to say, although I'm a FrightFest veteran and I do try and watch all the films, there's usually a point where I hit a wall, and it's kind of because I'm watching 25 films over 5 days, not getting much sleep, especially if you try and do anything social as well. And during this film, it's quite a long film. I think that's my criticism of it. Is it's over 2 hours long, and whilst I was really impressed with the action choreography, and I did quite get into the drama, the middle section feels long, and I nodded off. I was tired. I nodded off, and then when I woke up, I was really confused as to what the hell was going on. I lost it, and it was like, and my brain was going, I need to eat. I need caffeine. Because I was reading the subtitles, but the words weren't really going in anymore. So it was just images flashing across me.
Clive, didn't I say? Clive, what do you think of it? And you look dead.
I really like it was. I looked. I'm not. I probably looked like I'd whited out or something because I looked. I felt unwell.
You weren't coherent.
I was really confused. I was like, I really need to go to bed now. My brain just can't cope with any more of this. But so I will rewatch The Villainess. It's kind of like got an asterisk next to it for me because I did see it, but at the same time, after a while, my brain stopped processing the information. So yeah, it's kind of this sort of the Raid meets La Femme Nikita, and it's well done, but it's a bit long. So I want to give it another go.
I think you should. How about you, Simon?
Okay. Yes, I did see this one. I really enjoyed it. I thought the fight choreography at the beginning and the point of view cam was really good. I have to say, it was La Femme Nikita with a sort of revenge plot put in there, and it worked really well. It was a good melding of all these different parts. My only complaint would be that they did the point of view stuff a bit too much. It was too much shaky cam, and that was a bit hard to watch on such a big screen. I think maybe because maybe where I was sitting was maybe a bit too close, so it was it did get sort of a bit headache inducing at certain points with this constantly shaking camera that's moving all over the place as she's taken on all these people. I mean, the opening sequence is it is the hallway scene from Old Boy, but all point of view. So yeah, so yeah,
I totally get what you're saying. I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah, so so I enjoyed it. It's a film I'm going to go back watch again. I think it'll probably work better on a smaller screen, or if you're going to watch it on a big screen, just be as far back from it as possible. And just sort of enjoyed everything about that. So yeah, it's well worth seeing.
So now we move on to Monday, do we?
Final day, absolutely. We're nearly there.
Yeah.
Okay,
nearly there.
So kicked off with Stillborn, which, I actually thought I quite enjoyed this. I don't know what you guys thought. Another Canadian sort of moderate budget film. But I thought, in terms of the performances and everything, this worked quite well. What did you guys think?
I thought it was a really good way to mix possible imaginings of a woman going through postnatal depression and also losing one of her children at birth and the descent into madness, but then with a question mark of, well, is she mad, or is this something really strange that's going on? The paranoia and all that sort of stuff. I thought it was pretty slow going and didn't look particularly interesting. I just kept saying to myself, don't any of these fuckers have light switches in their houses? Because everyone was walking around with no bloody light switches on even during the dark, dingy day scenes. I'm like, so it was a bit uninteresting from that, but the performances were good. And I thought afterwards, it did make me think, it was an interesting commentary on, if some poor lady suffering this postnatal depression and how you can
psychological effects.
Yeah, it was more of a psychological than a monster or scary film. It did have a few good sort of shocks in it or jump scares. So yeah, solid, well made. It was very well done.
Did you see this one, Simon?
No, I skipped this one. Well,
you never get up early, do you?
No. Well, I mean, I sort of I learnt this back a while ago that you can't see every film, and so you just go at your own pace. So if you want to miss the first film, miss the first film, or miss the last film, or maybe miss both. I mean, but the thing is, as well, for me, the Monday morning first film is usually awful. It's usually the worst film of the festival, and
that wasn't the case here.
No, it wasn't the case, and there has been other examples of films that were excellent, and they stuck it on a Monday morning, and it's like, why? Like American Mary or the Video Nasties documentary.
Or a Saturday morning for The Horseman.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's some films that been really good, but they put them on in the morning, and you're just like, why? But so I skipped this one.
What did you see, Clive? No, he saw something else. What did you see, Clive?
I saw Veronica, which is a Mexican film, which is essentially a two-hander sort of psychological horror movie, which is filmed in black and white. About a reclusive psychologist who takes in this patient who's a disturbed young woman with a history of trauma to try and help her, and finds out that her previous psychologist disappeared under mysterious circumstances, and then things take a few twists and turns. It's essentially a two-hander. it's quite a sort of an intense sort of thing with a few nods to Hitchcock, and I thought it was very well done. It's it's a very controlled film, I thought it's, if you like psychological stuff, it's well done and worth seeking out.
I think I'll go for that one because it sounds a bit of me, that does.
I like the sound of that as well.
Yeah,
absolutely. Okay. Next up, I missed this one for something else, but you guys saw Low Light.
Yes, yeah. Let me go first because Low Life was a crime drama, very much in the vein of Pulp Fiction. It was a story that was told from different points of view and different parts of the story. I thought it was really well done. I really enjoyed it. Enjoyed the characters in it. I mean, they had a luchador in there, and it wasn't, he wasn't playing a wrestler or anything. He was just another character. And
he kind of was, wasn't he? He was sort of Santo type.
Yeah, but I mean,
superhero wrestler, right?
Yeah, but
what was he called? El Monstro.
El Monstro, yeah. But the thing is, he was just a character in the film. He wasn't, like the hero. Well, not in those wrestling films. He's not like a superhero. He is just a man, but he is also this luchador as well. I don't know. I thought it worked really well. I really enjoyed it. I liked the turns it took. I liked the fact that you had a guy with a swastika on his face and
tattooed,
and he turned out to be the best character in it.
Yeah,
it was because it had been starting at a fairly heavy minus with that on your face, wouldn't you?
Yeah. And it was, I thought it was really well done. My only criticism is the poster for this is shit, and they should really get another poster design for it, because it really makes it look like another kind of film, and it wasn't.
Clive?
Yeah, let Clive go next.
I also really enjoyed this one. I sense there's going to be a dissenting opinion here, but just from the sounds I was hearing along the road from me. I really enjoyed this. I liked, that they do some really sort of interesting things, like rather than showing El Monstro's violent outbreaks, he would essentially kind of like almost black out, and then he'd wake up and you'd see the aftermath, and that and little sort of touches like that, and it was full of these little sort of surprising character beats, which I thought made it a fun journey. So okay, Mike, hit us.
Well, don't prejudge, Clive, because I've reflected on this film, and I actually really like most of everything. I actually had a quite good time. I love El Monstro. He was fucking brilliant. I love the bit where you get the noise when a grenade goes off and all you hear is a high-pitched singing noise. Yeah. When El Monstro does his blackout. He had some funny lines. I quite like the narrative, and what Simon said, where the initial character turns up who's come out of prison, he's got a swastika tattooed on his face, which is obviously ridiculous. It went from him being, he's a bit of a dick, to actually being a good character. And I actually liked everything. I liked the setup. I thought some of it was a bit stupid with just the organ harvesting. I mean, the start of the film was very strong. We had these illegal immigrants being taken at gunpoint into the back of a van and then having all their organs taken out. Some great effects there, and it was quite grim. But then it turns into this weird Pulp Fiction thing with this wrestler, and it goes totally off the wall. And I was struggling with it to begin with, but I really warmed to the El Monstro character. The only thing is, I thought that the protagonist, or the bad guy, the top nasty man at the top of this tree that's meant to be feared and everyone was shit scared of this bloke and all the rest of it. He just didn't do it for me. I just thought he looked like a middle-aged Stan Lee who'd just been walking up the road and they asked him to do the part. So I think for me that was the biggest letdown. They needed.
That's Mike. That's how you cast all your films, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. So basically, I think that the main protagonist was not all that, and that just let it down quite a bit for me.
Well, I
did think about it afterwards. I did sort of go, "Oh, that was a bit rubbish," but then naturally, I've thought back, and I did actually stick right to the end of it, and I enjoyed it. But the boss man, who was meant to be the head honcho and do all this organ harvesting and stuff like that, I just thought he was a very weak, not very good acting, and it let the film down. Other than that, I thought it was all right.
Well, I just want to say about his character, and the thing was that he was the kind of character where if you didn't know he was like a gangland boss, you just think he was like this, guy who ran this fast food restaurant. You probably have a good chat with him or whatever, because he did come over. If he wanted to be nice, he could be quite nice and reasonable. To some extent. So I kind of got that vibe from him. I don't think they were going for like a big bad boss. It was just more of a guy who, if you knew him in the underworld, you knew he was a guy to be feared, but to everybody else, he had that sort of air of respectability.
I think he just lacked charisma, and when there was the issue when he was going to get nasty with someone, it didn't really do it for me. I think they could have maybe found someone a bit more. I don't know. With a bit more presence or charisma.
I thought his presence was fine. I thought he did a really good job. I thought he worked as a protagonist.
I don't know what it was. He just didn't seem. He seemed too weak. He looked like the sort of guy, if you wanted to do him over, you could do him over. He didn't seem like someone who was unhinged when he went unhinged to offer much threat, really, other than any other monkey that would just point a gun at you. That's all I was thinking. But other than that, it was an interesting film, and I have thought about it, and I love El Monstro. I think he was brilliant. He's my favourite character in the film.
Right. Well, this is another one where I made a mistake then, because I went to see, I won't dwell on it too long. I went to see Third Night, which was another Australian film about a couple that move into sort of the middle of nowhere. They had the filmmakers there, and bless them, they were really nice and really sort of passionate about what they were doing, and I kind of wanted to be on their side. But we all know how difficult it is to make films. But this didn't. It was only 72 minutes long, and it didn't hold my attention. This was only the second time in the entire FrightFest this year that I dozed off and missed a load of it, because the production values again were pretty poor, and so I think I would have been better. I'd had a better time watching Low Life, but that's the gamble. There you go.
Well, you got something to look forward to seeing then, Keith.
Well, and certainly had a lot of fun with the next film, which even though it was a Christmas film, it's a Christmas film in August, but better watch out. I thought this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this, and I think
I don't think we want to spoil anything for
no spoilers.
On this one.
No.
But it was enjoyable. Touches on Home Alone. I mean, in the first couple of scenes, they're talking about the paint bucket scenes from Home Alone, and
it had a John Hughes feel to it, didn't it?
Yeah,
it definitely had that sort of tonally.
And also, it was the babysitter looking after the kids, and there's been a stranger outside, and it's like, well, what do you do? But the film then takes a complete left field turn, doesn't it?
It does.
Which makes it, and the performances were great, weren't they?
Yeah, it was very, and the whole thing about it was a slick. I mean, this was a Universal picture, wasn't it? So it was a studio picture, and it had all the. It was slick and high budget and well made and well performed, and Yeah, very
Brilliant.
entertaining.
Yeah.
Highly recommended.
Yeah, and the parents at the beginning, they were a lot of fun.
The dad was priceless. Yeah, some of his lines were amazing. And so were Virginia Madsen's. She had some good stuff to do in this as well, didn't she, as the mum?
Yeah.
What did you think, Clive? Did you like this one?
I did. I thought it was a strong movie. As you say, you start off and you think, okay, you've got a babysitter and she's babysitting a young kid who's kind of got a thing for her, and it starts off and it's a bit cute, but then there's this home invasion and you think you know where it's going, and then it takes a turn, which we won't spoil.
Yeah.
But and this surprised me because I thought, and I'm so glad that I did decide to watch it, because I usually try and miss any Christmas horrors at FrightFest because I've got I don't like watching Christmas movies outside of Christmas.
Oh, okay.
But I'm glad I didn't do that this time, because I had a really great time with Better Watch Out. And the only thing I'll flag up to people, because I do recommend this, is that there is a mid-credit scene. So stay in your seats when it finishes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
We're nearly there.
Nearly there. So the penultimate film of the festival was The Tale of Hallows Eve.
The Terror.
Oh, Terror, sorry.
Yes, another one, Simon.
All right, The Terror of All Hallows Eve. It might as well be The Tale of All Hallows Eve, because there wasn't much terror in this film.
It was a steaming turd for me, from my perspective. I thought
I think that's a little unfair.
No, I think it was awful. I think that there may be a nice little creature in there, but the whole thing, in terms of the way they dicked around with the story, making them go back to his house and then having sets made up of, I don't know, tracing paper with a red light in the background, meaning they've gone to some weird dimension and all that stuff. It just, I thought it was a real letdown, real big letdown. And you're right, there's no terror in there at all for me, really. That's all I've got to say on that.
I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, the film, okay, the guy is like he's a makeup creature effects designer and stuff like that, and it's kind of autobiographical, and he did say in his intro that they had used some tracks by John Carpenter,
which was superb.
Was superb. But the thing is, he wanted to be a John Carpenter. He was like a John Carpenter wannabe. I mean, they had the same font for the titles. As
Haddonfield Institute.
Yeah. Well, okay, so you brought that up. At the end of the day, this is a film that really outstayed its welcome. I mean, that last 10 minutes, which again was like setting up another film, was awful. And you just like, oh, what the hell? We're gonna watch? We got another story to go? Or what? I was thinking, bloody hell, I thought this was over. I
agree that you could dispense with that.
Right,
it's almost like he only created it to get his own fizzle in his own picture.
Yeah,
because he was that guy, wasn't he?
That's
in the
right.
cell.
Yeah.
I mean, I think saying it was a steaming turd's a little unfair. It wasn't. It had a hard act to follow. From Better Watch Out, it was a hard act to follow. And it's one of those. Again, I'll say it. I found it enjoyable enough, but it'll be forgettable. It certainly wasn't the worst film of the festival at all. Not for me anyway.
No.
I'm gonna side with Keith here, because I kind of enjoyed it. It was flawed, certainly, and I agree that the kind of epilogue it just stayed too long. They should have left it as a sort of a brief coda, but it became like a whole extended scene, which I didn't think they really needed. I think it's sort of important to sort of stress what kind of horror film this is, and it almost feels like a horror film for kids stroke young adults. You've got a sort of a 15-year-old protagonist. And it's sort of it's quite kind of
It's more of a fantasy.
Yeah, it's quite sort of tame. You got all these fantastical monsters in it because the guy comes from this background. So it almost feels a little bit kid friendly, except for sort of perhaps the way it sort of takes a turn at the end, which I won't go into. But yeah, I thought there was some nice effects work. There was also some not so effective effects work where they sort of the budget showed a little bit. But you got Doug Jones in there playing two different creatures. And, Sarah Lancaster as the mum, I thought was decent. So, yeah, it's clearly quite a personal project for the guy. I understand the first sort of 25 minutes of the movie is essentially based on something that happened to him in his childhood. And, I thought it was kind of charming initially, and then it sort of outstayed its welcome a little bit.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, yeah. Yeah,
Come on, Simon.
I just wanted to say, I thought the, when they went into the sort of the kills when they were taking on the bullies, that they were kind of unimaginative. I mean, the fat guy eats and then gets eaten. It's just like, oh, okay. It was,
Yeah. I didn't think it really worked for me. At all.
Yeah, didn't work for me.
And I was looking forward to it. And I think we've been spoilt with things like Trick or Treat. And even the pretty abysmal one we saw as a closing film, was it a couple of years ago?
Tales of Halloween, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was much better than this thing that we saw.
Yeah.
I didn't, but
I guess Clive won't agree with you on
Clive
that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Right.
our final film was Tragedy Girls. What were the thoughts on that one? Was it a good film to end on?
I thought it was. I thought it was good fun.
Yeah, it was.
I enjoyed it.
It was a good fun film. Yeah, it was a nice one to go out with. It kind of like, a mix of genre, high school slasher, serial killer film.
It was good. I thought it made me laugh quite a lot. I thought it was quite amusing. It kept me engaged, and it was like a middle of the road, quality, well made, well acted slasher set in a high school, and it sort of made a commentary about social media and people's presence on. It had all the overlays, so when people were getting texts or likes on their Twitter or whatever, it would come up on the screen. And it reminded me a bit of that other high school film that I quite liked a couple of years ago, again with a D.
Oh, Detention.
I really enjoyed Detention.
Actually, I gotta say, Detention was much better than this film. I think
it was better. Yeah,
Detention was much more imaginative. Yeah. I mean, it's very true. I mean, it's kind of it was good. I mean, the leads in it were very good. They're both the two girls in it. They're both from the X-Men franchise.
X-Men universe. Yeah.
One played the new Storm. The other one was in Deadpool.
I mean, Alan Jones was really sucking this bloke's cock when he was saying that he's the best director in the world virtually and all this sort of stuff. And, I thought he did a competent job. There was nothing in there that said to me, this bloke is the next Spielberg, though. So, I don't know where that came from.
To be fair, I'm not sure he said that, did he? But okay.
Well, he did introduce him as
words.
he did introduce him as like a director to watch and all this stuff. But I mean, but the thing is, with film festivals and stuff, you get a bit of hyperbole anyway. They're trying to big things up, and and if, I guess in Alan's eyes, this guy is up and coming, and he's trying to do the best for him, so he's going to say that stuff.
I mean, it had the sort of feel of like Scream about it to a certain extent, but I thought one of the most interesting things about it actually was the commentary on social media, and the fact it was actually, when you think about it, because this was obviously a fairly light-hearted film, but when you strip that away, it's actually quite dark. What it was saying, and about your popularity and how many likes you get, etc., is so important that it's even worth killing
people
for to the point where our characters are almost at odds with one another at one point about this. So I don't want to spoil it, but I thought that it dealt with that in a very entertaining but interesting way, and it's one of those that you leave still sort of thinking about, or at least I did anyway.
Yeah, true. I did.
It
did stay with me for a while afterwards. Yeah.
Clive, so what were your thoughts?
I enjoyed it. I thought the two leads were really strong. It does have this nice satirical element. It is trying to do something slightly different with the slasher format. In the vein of a Scream, but it's got that sort of Mean Girls meets Heathers sort of snarky humor going all the way through it. The fact that you've got these two girls who trap a serial killer, and they've got this sort of murderous partnership, and it's very slick and it's funny. Ultimately, I think it's a little bit clever than it actually is, but I did enjoy it. Yeah, it was good fun.
Mm-hmm. And you must have been happy with the claret in it, Mike. Yeah, because there was
some good kills in it.
There was
really
some
good,
quite good gore, wasn't there? Yeah.
No, it ticked all the boxes. It was like if you watched it on Netflix or something, you go, actually that was good. I enjoyed that. I had a good time with it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've just got to mention Josh Hutcherson in it, who people will remember from the Hunger Games movies as a great sort of cameo role where he sends himself up rotten as this sort of brooding loner on a motorcycle. He's so good. It's like if fans of Twin Peaks, if you remember the sort of James character, it's almost that like a Mickey take of that. It's so good. Yeah. And
it was a shame he wasn't in it for longer, to tell the truth. I think they got rid of him quite quickly.
Well, I've not seen the Hunger Games, so that completely went over my head, but I did appreciate the humour.
Well, he was actually in detention. He was the guy in that, so.
Was he?
Oh. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so there's a link there as well.
There you go. There you go.
Good.
Cool.
Right.
Well, there you go. We made it.
We made it.
Now is the moment of truth then.
Yeah.
And I always think guests should go first on this.
Paul, are you still there?
Would you say
no, Paul's left
overall...
us.
Has Paul gone, has he?
Yes, he has.
Oh,
he apologises, but he says he quite enjoyed it.
Right.
Mayhem, I know, was Paul's favourite film that he saw on the day.
Yeah.
Let me flick back through the programme, and the one that he didn't like, I would say, because he actually had quite... I actually say that he wouldn't have anything that he didn't like. He actually he had a really solid day, and if he'd have stayed like I asked him to for the Villainess, he would have gone home with a cracker of a day.
Yeah,
I think that was one of the most solid days out of all of them, really.
Yeah, but true. But I mean, most of us when we first did FrightFest, we did it in quite a small dosage. So he had.
Oh
like
I'm not criticising him.
Yeah,
he's just.
Well, it makes me realise how abnormal I am. Because,
we know that, Keith, already.
Well, no, but seriously, sitting through the films to me is like nothing. But I do think, it is quite extreme, isn't it?
Yeah. All right. So, Mike, what was your picks from movie heaven?
Villainess,
okay.
top notch, or with a very strong close second was El Bar was my second strongest. Okay. El Bar had it all the way up until I saw the Villainess, and the Hell will be. Let's have a look. There's a nice little selection here, but the sequence break really fucked me off.
Okay, right, Clive, what was your picks?
Okay, for movie heaven, I'm going to say my number one film was The Bar, and for movie hell, I'm going to my movie hell is Psychopaths.
Okay. And Keith, what was your picks?
Crap! I really should have seen The Bar, shouldn't I? Fuck. Okay.
El Bar.
I like Mike. Obviously, thought Villainess was amazing, but because it's horror, I'm going to go with Killing Ground as movie heaven for this one. And I am also going to go with Sequence Break as movie hell, because that's the film that made me miss bloody the one I wanted to watch, Bad Date or whatever it's called. So Bad Match. Sorry.
Oh, Bad Match. Sorry.
So,
yeah.
So Killing Ground heaven, Sequence Break hell.
And for me, I'm going to go for Low Life as heaven. And for hell, I'm going to go for The Terror of Hallows Eve.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, baby.
There you go.
Nice one.
Because thankfully this year I dodged a lot of bullets. I missed a lot of
Last year you got shot to shit, didn't you?
I only saw one film. It was the worst film ever. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I got to see Train to Busan when I turned up for my day there.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Good one.
Yes.
That was a good one.
That's
Okay.
good.
Right, guys.
Thanks, gents. That has gone on a long time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
anyone's
yeah,
got to the end of this.
I mean, maybe we just got very quickly time to mention ones that we didn't get a chance to see, which other people told us were awesome.
Yeah.
Like Cold Hell, I heard really great things about.
Stuart was big on that one, wasn't he?
Imitation Girl, I heard good things about.
Yes.
And Freddie Eddie, also Jason.
Yeah.
Jason Bourne
really,
liked that
really
one,
liked
didn't
that,
he? Yeah.
Okay. But I think you can, if anyone's interested, you go on the FrightFest website. They will have the listing for all of the films that were screened.
Yeah.
You might even still be able to download a PDF of the program, which is probably a good idea, and you'll be able to have a good sort of viewing list. So if anything pops up on Netflix or Amazon Prime, you can check them out.
That's
yeah,
it.
definitely.
Indeed.
And there was a whole strand of retrospective horror screenings, which we didn't even touch on because we all went for the new the new stuff. But they had a couple of Hammer pictures. They had Return of the Living Dead 3 and Dream Demon. So yeah, there's some interesting stuff in there.
Yeah, the Hammer ones have just come out on a new Blu-ray set, including the Gorgon, which I just bought separately a few weeks ago because I knew that there's a good Blu-ray quality copy of the Gorgon, which has Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing in,
And
Barbara Shelley. It's a nice one, directed by Terence Fisher, so it's a good one.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, so to our guests, then, if people want to try and see your work, where can they go for that?
Just go on YouTube, search for Mike Tack Films, and you'll find my channel with all my stuff on there, which hasn't been updated lately. But Keith is going to be appearing very shortly in my next project. So called The Judge, but we'll hopefully. By the way, Keith, we're the animal that's going to be in that film is now going to be the one and only El Bandito.
Oh, right.
Oh, interesting.
So Bandit is going to become a film star because he is such a handsome boy.
Well, you heard it here first, folks.
Yeah.
Clive.
So I was just going to say, Lou, my wife is a dog trainer. She's on board because initially I said I want to have a dog in this film, and she was like, "Oh no, I can't have Bandit in there because it might fuck up his training regime." But we can actually aim at him with a pretend gun, and he'll fall down like he's been shot. You know, like Clyde in the Every Which Way But Loose films. Yeah. And he's really come on.
I did suggest Bandit when you first mentioned this.
Well, I think
you thought I was perfect. A lunatic.
No. I wanted him originally, but then I had to back off. But this other guy said he couldn't do it today, so Bandit's now going to be in the breach. Anyway, that's by the by. So that's my information.
Cool. And Clive, where can people find your work?
Well, if people are interested in finding my work, they can go onto Vimeo and search for Clive Ashenden, and you'll find the stuff that I've done there. Or I also appear as an actor in several of Mike's productions, so you can look at the Apocalyptic Conservatory Studios stuff, and you might catch a glimpse of me there.
Quite a few glimpses.
Indeed. So thanks for having me on, guys. Really enjoyed it, and it helped me sort of. It's very much helped my FrightFest come down to talk through the movies. So yeah.
Excellent.
Overall, it's been a pretty good FrightFest.
Yes, it was a very good FrightFest.
Because
strong year.
Yeah, and I didn't mind the fact that I was going to miss a few films. I said to Tim Richards, my makeup guy, I said, I'm just going to chill out. I'm not going to look at the trailers. I'll just play as it goes. And if I get a ticket on the day for one that people say is particularly good, I'll take it. Yeah. I'm not going to beat myself up over it like I used to do years ago. But it's a great fest, good value every year as always, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the next one with you guys, and maybe we can look at the Glasgow as a possibility.
Yes, well, there's the Halloween all-nighter as well coming up. So.
Oh, is that an all-nighter or is it an all-dayer? I thought they changed the timing.
It's an all-dayer now.
Oh, it's all-dayer. Okay.
Oh, that's a bit more better, isn't it? I might be up for that. Yeah, let me know,
did
guys.
It last year.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Right, Keith, where can people find your work?
If you go to YouTube and put in British Isles, spelled EYLES, you can find short films that I've written, produced and directed there.
Okay, and as always, you can find my work at independentrunnings.com. You can listen to this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, and all good podcast providers. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Just search Movie Heaven, Movie Hell. And please do leave us a rating and review on iTunes and Stitcher. It all helps. So, thank you for joining us on this extended podcast. I don't think any of us thought it'd go on for this long, but here we are.
Well, at least I could take a toilet break halfway through without anyone knowing.
And join us for our next episode of Movie Heaven, Movie Hell. I'm sure it'll be shorter.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.